Chapter 10:51. After asking about the two sides, Su Yun fell in a deep thought. Wei Ming, Xing Bai, and the rest stood at the side, not daring to disturb Su Yun. After a long while, Su Yun opened his mouth and called out to the back, faceless. It was unknown when a sturdy man wearing a gray mask had appeared from the crowd. This sturdy man's appearance was extremely strange, because the people around him did not know where he came from and did not even see him before. The man quickly walked to Su Yun's side and knelt down on one knee. Master, what are your orders? There's a change of plans. Later, you'll follow me to the octave door. Wei Ming, bring the elite troops and provoke them from the front door. The rest of you will go around the back. Su Yun said, go to the octave door first. Everyone was alarmed. Xing Bai immediately asked, Master, what do you mean by that? How we go to the octave door first? Do you plan to sneak in first? Why sneak in? Just walk in openly. Su Yun said, infiltrating in broad daylight? Xing Bai was startled. His gaze inadvertently shifted to the disciples of the octave door and immediately came to a realization. Master, you mean to borrow these people's hands? That's right. Su Yun nodded his head. Didn't these people follow the orders of the 4 Seas Empyrean to capture immortals to refine pills for him? Since that's the case, then let's just treat it as them capturing me and faceless back. Master, that's not good, right? If the 4 Seas Empyrean sees through Master's identity, I'm afraid Master will be in danger. Qin Qianlong, who had been silent all this while, finally spoke up, his words filled with heaviness. Xing Bai and the rest also nodded their heads. Su Yun did not know if they were truly concerned about him, or if they were worried that no one would give them the antidote if he died. Don't worry, I already have a plan. Everything will not change much from the original plan. Just follow the plan. Su Yun waved his hand and pointed at the disciples of the octave door. Lead the way, bring me to the octave door. Master, should we feed them some poison to prevent them from betraying us? Xiang Yang cupped his fists and said, no need. Su Yun shook his head. With me and Faceless here, I can make them die without being able to say a word and save the poison. With that, he turned around and waved his hand. All right, everyone from the 8 door, let's go. Seeing this, the people of the 8 Unity sect were stunned. They tentatively took a few steps forward. Seeing that Xiang Yang and the others had no intention of attacking, they tiptoed over. My lord, what about those people from Feather Imperial Palace? At this moment, Wei Ming shouted from behind. Send someone to bring them back and lock them up first. They will be useful in the future. Su Yun called out and entered the dome door. When the people of Jingyu Royal Palace heard this, each and every one of them started to tremble. They really wanted to resist, but with Wei Ming here, how could they dare to be impudent? Qin Qianlong and Xing Bai, who were standing in the distance, knew that these were all powerful beings. How could they fight against them? Especially that black-cloaked fellow. Even existences like Wei Ming and Qin Qianlong addressed him as Lord. Just how terrifying was his strength? Useful in the future? Could it be that he was going to make a move on Jingyu Royal Palace in the future? Hearing Su Yun's words, the few people in charge were alarmed. They felt that Su Yun's appetite was getting bigger and bigger. If he really swallowed Jingyu Royal Palace, then Su Yun's power would no longer be able to hide. However, they did not dare to refute Su Yun's orders and immediately did as he said, sending out a small team to quickly escort the rogue cultivators back to the immortal-seeking sect. At the same time, Su Yun, under the lead of the disciples of the 8 Unity sect, headed towards the 8 Unity sect. Under Su Yun's request, the disciples of the 8 Unity sect surrounded him and Faceless as they advanced forward. The two of them were handcuffed, as though they were captured, but compared to the two sides, Su Yun's face was relaxed. On the other hand, the disciples of the 8 Unity sect all had nervous expressions. Their bodies were trembling, and even though they were flying, they were swaying, as though they could fall from the sky at any time. I hope that you don't doubt my methods. When you get close to the 8 Unity sect, put on an act. If you still maintain such an expression, you will definitely be seen through. If that's the case, I'm afraid that you won't be able to return to the 8 Unity sect, and I won't be able to enter the 8 Unity sect. Just then, Su Yun said indifferently. Hearing that, the disciples of the Eight Unity sect all trembled. They tried their best to control their emotions, hide the fear in their hearts, and maintain a calm expression. Seeing that, Su Yun curled up his body and looked like he was trembling, looking like a captured lamb. In terms of acting skills, Su Yun believed that he was the best among these immortals, because he had always been acting. If you perform well this time, I will definitely let you go and not take your lives. Su Yun spoke again. But if you choose to expose all of this, then I can tell you that not only will the Eight Unity sect and even the Four Seas Empyrean not be able to protect you, they will not be able to stop me. We know, Master, a disciple of the Eight Unity sect said with a trembling voice. Yes. Su Yun nodded his head, but seeing that Faceless was still standing foolishly at the side, he could not help but use his arm to nudge him, and said softly, "Although you don't have to make an expression with the mask on, you should at least squat down and pretend." Faceless was startled, then squatted down. Perhaps the golden-armored great immortal had never done such a thing before. The changes in the group had already been reversed, and from the looks of it, it really did seem like it. But only these people knew the actual situation. Very quickly, the group of people approached the Eight Unity sect. Su Yun had never been to the Eight Unity sect before, so he did not know much about the sect. It was only because he was preparing to take action against the sect that he had a rough understanding of it. The disciples of the Eight Unity sect did not lead Su Yun in through the main door, but went around to the side door. Just as they were about to enter, they took out some powder from somewhere and scattered it towards Su Yun and Faceless. When the powder fell, the two of them immediately disappeared. Go forward, Master," the disciple of the Eight Unity sect said in a trembling voice. Hearing that, Su Yun walked forward. There were probably a lot of spies around the Eight Unity sect. Since they had captured him, how could they dare to go through the main door? They didn't dare to bring him in just like that, so it was necessary to disguise themselves. At the side door, there was a disciple dressed in gray clothes waiting for this group of people. Seeing them coming over, the disciple immediately opened the door behind him and walked in. The group of people quickly walked in, and just as they entered, the door was closed. The disciples of the Eight Unity sect stopped, and the disciple dressed in gray, who was stationed in front of the door, stood in front of them. A strange smile appeared on his face. He sized them up and said, "Oh, I can't tell, Li Zheng, you guys can actually catch fish? TSK, TSK, TSK. How strange." The disciple called Li Zheng scratched the back of his head and pretended to be simple and honest. There are also a few idiots who are walking towards the dome door. "Ha! Is there anyone more stupid than you? Ha 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 ha." The disciple dressed in gray laughed out loud. The ridicule in his voice was very strong. However, the person called Li Zheng did not dare to be angry and continued to smile. "Senior brother Lu Yi is right. There is no one more stupid than me. Ha ha ha. All right, stop talking about these useless things with Lousy. Remove the invisibility and let me see what you've caught." The man called Lu Yi waved his hand and placed his gaze in the middle of the disciples of the Eight Unity sect. When Li Zheng saw this, he nodded to the disciples next to him. Those people understood and immediately cast immortal techniques. A spiral-like halo floated down from above and directly enveloped the disciples. Not long after, two people curled up on the ground with their hands and feet chained up appeared in the middle of the halo. Seeing that, the man called Lu Ye's expression that was filled with anticipation immediately revealed a deep sense of disappointment. "What? Two grown men? There's not even a female immortal? Senior brother Lu Yi." Li Zheng's face was filled with helplessness. Lu Ye's lecherous nature was something that many of the senior brothers and junior brothers knew about, especially the immortals who were captured and brought into the Eight Unity sect. Lu Yi wanted to force them to cultivate together, play with them for a while, and then hand them over. He was an elite disciple of the sect, a direct disciple of an elder, and his status was above these ordinary disciples. Even if something happened, the elders would take care of it for him, which was why he dared to act so recklessly. In the past, he had only deceived some of the female disciples who had just entered the Eight Unity sect, but now He had directly threatened these female immortals. All right, what bad luck. It wasn't easy for your team to capture someone, but it's two grown men. It's really annoying to look at them. Hurry up and take them away. Save me the trouble of looking at them. After Lu Yi finished speaking, he looked at Su Yun, who was curled up on the ground. The more he looked, the angrier he became. He then raised his leg and kicked towards his head. Damn it! Although this kick was used to vent his anger, the force behind it was not small. In Lu Ye's eyes, these immortals who had been captured and brought into the Eight Unity sect could not even be considered humans. They could only be considered animals. If he wanted to play with them, he could play with them. However, just as the kick approached Su Yun, his leg to the base of his thigh suddenly turned into minced meat. One of his legs was gone in an instant. Lu Yi was stunned. He didn't even have time to feel the pain, nor did he have time to react. He saw the man in the cloak suddenly stand up, and the man with the grayish-brown mask beside him punched him in the chest. In an instant, this living person had actually been directly torn into pieces. He was completely dead. Li Zheng and the rest widened their eyes as they looked at this scene in shock. Lu Ye's body shattered, and the soul within his body also flowed out. However, the soul actually trembled violently, and the color of the soul quickly dimmed. In the end, it actually disappeared without a trace, one punch to shatter the body, shaking the soul to death. The opponent was even an immortal, an elite disciple of the Eight Unity sect. Was this still a power that they could recognize? Li Zheng and the rest all looked at the masked man in shock. They could not believe what they had just seen. Chapter 1052. Lu Yi was directly killed, but there was not much of the smell of blood. The cloaked man took a deep breath, and all the blood chi that leaked out from Lu Ye's broken body was sucked into his body. Because the masked man used pure power and did not even leak out immortal chi, the people from the Eight Harmonies sect could not sense it at all. If Li Zheng and the rest had not seen it with their own eyes, they would not have believed that in that instant, a second stage spirit profound immortal existence had quietly died. Su Yun stood up, waved the chain in his hand, and turned to Li Zheng and the rest. Don't waste time. Bring us to see the Four Seas Empyrean. Li Zheng immediately quivered. He regained his senses and anxiously led the way. Previously, he was afraid of Su Yun and the rest because he saw Wei Ming, Qin Qianlong, and the other famous great immortals bow down to Su Yun, which was why he was intimidated. But now, the situation was different. The strength that Faceless had displayed had completely made Li Zheng unable to resist an existence that could casually kill immortals. How could they provoke him? Li Zheng was not loyal to the Eight Harmonies sect, or rather, the reason why he joined the Eight Harmonies sect was because he wanted to have a cultivation environment. After all, with someone to guide him, he would be able to avoid many detours, and the Four Seas Empyrean was also quite famous, which was why he joined the Eight Harmonies sect. However, to say that he would shed his blood for the Eight Harmonies sect, he believed that it was impossible for him to do so, and there was no need for him to do so. He did not know why Su Yun wanted him to bring him to the Four Seas Empyrean, but he knew that today, perhaps today, the Eight Harmonies sect would welcome the greatest disaster in history. He understood a principle that there was karma in this world, and that there was a cycle of karma. Since the Four Seas Empyrean had continuously refined and killed immortals for the sake of cultivation, then he would definitely make those immortals who had died pay the price. Perhaps even Li Zheng himself would bear the responsibility for everything he had done before. Li Zheng took a deep breath and looked at the few senior and junior brothers beside him, only to see that they were all nervously staring at the two powerful fellows. Obviously, the methods of the two had completely frightened them, to the point that they were unable to hide their emotions. This couldn't go on. Li Zheng sucked in a deep breath, then reminded them in a low voice. Everyone regained their senses and nodded, not daring to be careless. This group of people took a secluded path with very few people. According to Li Zheng, not everyone in the Eight Unity sect knew about the Four Seas Celestial Venerate. At least, most people thought that the Eight Unity sect was just a pure immortal cultivation sect and nothing more. When Li Zheng led Su Yun and the rest to the Four Seas Great Hall in the central region of the octave door, it was already half an incense stick of time later. Su Yun sized up the Four Seas Palace from afar and saw that it was a palace that was several times larger than the other buildings around it. The entire palace seemed to be a little shabby, and it was unknown what material was used to build the palace. But the walls of the palace were overflowing with a bit of gray qi, and there was a dark light flashing at the top, which was extremely strange. And what was even stranger was that there were not many disciples guarding the surroundings of the palace, and it was especially secluded, giving off a strange feeling. "This is it," Li Zheng said in a low voice, then silently walked to the front of the palace and shouted, "Senior Brother Mu, Senior Brother Tong, open the door." Creak, the strange door of the hall was slowly pushed open, and two figures walked out from inside. "What are you arguing for? What are you arguing for? If you dare to make any more noise, I'll teach you a lesson." The man on the right, who was called Senior Brother Mu, shouted with an arrogant attitude. When the two of them saw that the ones who came to hand over the person were actually Li Zheng's group, they immediately revealed surprised expressions. Li Zheng, it's you guys? What? Did you catch a fish?" The man called Senior Brother Tong glanced at Li Zheng and asked. "I was just lucky." Li Zheng pretended to be honest again. "Is that so?" The two of them looked at Su Yun and Faceless, only to see that Faceless was wearing a mask. His face could not be seen, while Su Yun was wearing a cloak. His face could not be seen clearly. The two of them were dressed rather mysteriously, but their cultivations were only at the first stage of the Spirit Profound Immortal. Su Yun could use the Imperial Battle Robe to change his cultivation, and Faceless had his own methods. Senior Brother Tong looked at the two of them and frowned. "Is this the fish you caught? I really don't feel good looking at it. Stop talking nonsense. Let's bring them in and deal with them first. In any case, they will suffer in the future." Senior Brother Mu sneered. He immediately grabbed the iron chains that bound the two of them and pulled with all his might. "Come in." The two of them seemed to be unable to withstand the force. With a stagger, they stumbled into the great hall, almost falling down. They were in a sorry state. Seeing this, the two of them laughed out loud. Li Zheng stood outside the hall in a daze. Looking at the two people who were gradually disappearing into the hall, his heart tensed up again. What are you still standing here for? There's nothing for you to do here. Get lost." Seeing that Li Zheng was still outside the hall, Senior Brother Mu snorted inwardly and shouted. Li Zheng's body trembled, and he hurriedly bowed to him, then hurriedly retreated. "You're not leaving, and you still want to ask for a reward? You caught 2 salted fish, and you want a reward? You really don't know the immensity of heaven and earth." The disciple with the surname Mu sneered, then directly closed the door. Li Zheng, who had not gone far, naturally heard this sentence. After all, the disciple with the surname Mu did not deliberately avoid anything. Although it made people feel angry, Li Zheng had no reason to be angry at this moment. He quickly walked towards his own cultivation area, so much so that the senior and junior brothers beside him did not care. "Senior brother, where are you going?" The few of them hurriedly called out. When Li Zheng heard this, he raised his head and said in a low voice, "Naturally, it's my own cultivation area." "Cultivation area? Senior brother, we brought such people into the sect. If something happens, I'm afraid we won't be able to escape responsibility." A disciple walked forward and said in a low and heavy voice, "I know." Li Zheng nodded and said, "So, I'm going back to the cultivation area to pack up. We must immediately leave the 8 Unity Gate. We can't stay here any longer, otherwise we will die." "Go? Senior brother has already decided to leave? What, you still don't want to go? Now, let's not talk about the purpose of these 2 people coming to the 8 Unity Gate. Just think about what punishment the sect will give to us after they cause trouble here. If I'm not wrong, perhaps we will be brought into that hall and thrown into the cauldron to refine pills. This may not be true. Moreover, if something happens with the means of those 2 almighty beings, I'm afraid this place will also become a place of trouble. It's also possible to be affected and die. So, no matter what the situation is, we can't stay here any longer. Go. The faster we go, the better." Li Zheng said in a low voice. When these words fell, These disciples, who were still somewhat hesitant, made up their minds and nodded in unison. "That's good. We'll go with you. Senior brother." "Good." After the time it takes for half an incense stick to burn, gather at the side door. "Yes." Clang. The sound of iron chains smashing the ground came out. Su-Yun and Faceless dragged the heavy iron chains and stumbled into the hall. However, just as the two of them entered the hall, the originally quiet hall suddenly sounded out with waves of ghostly wails. Some were screaming miserably, some were moaning weakly, and some were wailing in a low voice. All kinds of sounds mixed together, and the air was filled with a pungent stench. Su-Yun and Faceless were startled and looked forward at the same time, but this glance caused the two of them to be alarmed. Above the great hall in front of them, there were hundreds of chains hanging down, and on each chain there was an immortal. There were men and women among these immortals, but at this moment their immortal power was sealed, and their bodies were naked, like sheep waiting to be slaughtered, moaning there. "How could this be?" Faceless muttered. "It's natural to refine a mortal pill like this." Su-Yun looked at the huge cauldron at the side. Below the cauldron, there were broken limbs, and at the mouth of the cauldron, a strange smoke was surging out. How is it? Are you surprised? Actually, you don't have to care too much about it, because very soon you'll be like them, directly hanging above like pigs. Ha ha ha. The two of them laughed out loud, their voices echoing throughout the entire hall. Su-Yun turned around and stared at the man, but did not say a word. At this time, Disciple Tong suddenly activated some immortal equipment, and 2 rays of light shot down from the top of the hall, shining on the two of them. This seems to be a spell that restrains immortal power. "Master, be careful." Faceless, who was at the side, used his immortal power as a medium to transmit his voice into Su-Yun's ears. "It's fine. This spell doesn't have any effect on me," Su-Yun replied. "But I still have to do what I have to do, fall to the ground." With that said, Su-Yun immediately fell to the ground and revealed a panicked voice. "What's going on? My immortal power! My immortal power!" His voice and expression were extremely real, causing Faceless, who was at the side, to be stunned. After a long while, Faceless finally reacted. He immediately laid on the ground. But he could not pretend to be like Su-Yun. It was somewhat fake, but fortunately, the two of them were attracted by Su-Yun's exquisite acting skills, to the point that they did not pay attention to them. Seeing Su-Yun's terrified look, the two of them laughed out loud, extremely pleased with themselves. "Ha ha, how is it? Does it feel good?" "Ha ha." The two of them laughed for a while, then walked towards Su-Yun together. Disciple Tong walked in front of him and placed his hand on his shoulder. After feeling for a moment, he said, "There's no more immortal power. The seal is a success." "Very good. Then let's hang him up." Disciple Mu laughed. "And first take off the things on his body. These guys have to be careful. Any piece of cloth on their body, it might be a magic treasure. It might help them escape. Once they escape, we'll be finished." "Got it. Hurry up." With that, the two of them moved their hands up and down, wanting to strip off Su-Yun's clothes. Seeing that, Su-Yun was so scared that his face turned green. He immediately curled up his body, opened his eyes wide, and looked at the two of them, and said with a trembling voice, "You all, what are you doing?" Chapter 1053. Why the F***CK are you spouting so much nonsense? Disciple Mu was impatient. He immediately pressed one hand on Su-Yun's chest, pressing him to the ground, not allowing him to move, and with the other hand he started to pull his robe, while Disciple Tong started to remove his sword sheath, the two of them cooperating very well. Don't be like this," Su-Yun shouted a few times. But he could not stop the two of them from moving. His shouts could not stop them at all. Faceless watched from the side. He did not know if he should make a move or not, but seeing that the two of them were dealing with Su-Yun, he could not be bothered to pretend anymore. But at this moment, creak, the door of the hall was pushed open again. When the two disciples who were about to strip Su-Yun saw the door open, they turned their heads in unison. When they saw that the person standing at the door was an old man, the two of them trembled. They anxiously stood up and ran over, respectfully bowing to the old man. Greetings, master. Yes. The old man nodded his head. His gaze swept across the room, and very quickly, he saw Su Yun and Faceless who were gasping for breath on the ground. He pursed his lips and said indifferently, "What's wrong? Is this a new catch?" Reporting to master, it was Li Zheng and the others who caught them. Disciple Tong immediately cupped his fists and said, "Li Zheng?" The old man frowned. "Who is it?" "Oh, master, it's the disciple who was sent to guard the sky gate." Disciple Tong said respectfully again, "Don't you remember? They're the ones who took over Lu Zhao's group, but because too many things have happened in the sky gate, they haven't sent anyone over for a long time. Today, they got two, so they sent them over." "Oh, I remember." The old man's frown eased up. "So it's those people? I forgot that the sky gate hasn't sent anyone over for a long time." He shifted his gaze back to Su Yun and Faceless and slowly walked over. However, after taking 2 steps, he suddenly stopped, and his brows that had just relaxed suddenly tightened again. His dim yellow eyes were filled with doubt and confusion. He stared intently at Su Yun and Faceless, as though he wanted to see something. Although Su Yun and Faceless were lying on the ground, as if they had been subdued with their current state, it was not a problem for them to be full of ordinary immortals. This old man was not a simple existence, especially Faceless. His acting was too bad. He was afraid that the other party would see through him. Su Yun and Faceless were also looking at the old man, each with their own thoughts. If this went on, the old man would be able to tell that he was the 4 Seas celestial master. If it was him, the situation would be different. After all, it was impossible for him to not be able to detect it like an ordinary disciple. Bang! At this moment, an earth-shattering explosion suddenly rang out. The entire hall shook from the deafening sound. 4 Seas' heavenly venerate's expression tensed as he looked in the direction of the voice. "The sound is coming from the mountain gate." Disciple Tong cried out anxiously, "Is someone here to cause trouble?" The disciple surnamed Mu quickly ran out. However, he hadn't run for long when he saw a disciple of the 8 Unity Gate anxiously running towards him. "Disaster! Disaster!" the disciple shouted at the top of his lungs. Seeing this, the disciple surnamed Mu immediately rushed forward and kicked him over. "What are you panicking for? Don't you see that master is here?" The disciple rolled on the ground and raised his head. Only then did he clearly see the old man who had walked out of the hall. He was so scared that his face turned pale. He immediately knelt on the ground and fiercely knocked his head on the ground. "This disciple was reckless. Please forgive me, sect master." "What happened? Why are you so flustered?" The 4 Seas celestial master said indifferently. The disciple immediately raised his head and pointed in the direction of the mountain gate. He said anxiously, "Sect master, someone is attacking from outside. We can't stop them at all." "Someone is attacking?" The 4 Seas celestial master was startled. "Who dares to behave atrociously in front of my 8 Unity Gate?" This disciple doesn't know that person, but Elder Zhang, who rushed over, recognized him. He called that person something. Wei Ming. Yes, Elder Zhang called that person Wei Ming. That person is too strong. Elder Zhang couldn't even touch him when he exchanged blows with him. His physical body was blasted apart, and he died. The disciple spoke in terror, as if he had thought of something extremely terrifying. His voice trembled as he spoke. "What? Wei Ming?" The 4 Seas celestial master was truly shocked when he heard this. "Wei Ming? Master, is it that Dali Palace's Wei Ming?" The disciple, surnamed Tong, asked. "Apart from him, is there another Wei Ming who dares to act impudently in my 8 Unity Gate?" The 4 Seas celestial master said solemnly, "That's not strange. As an elder of Dali Palace, Wei Ming is proficient in the Dali Palace technique. Although Elder Zhang is an elder, his cultivation isn't strong. Compared to others, he isn't on the same level. It's not strange that he was killed." He waved his hand and said indifferently, "Summon all the elders back. Send all the elite disciples in the sect to face the enemy." Although Dali Palace's palace master Kuei Yang is dead, Qin Xianlong, who has taken over Dali Palace, isn't simple either. Wei Ming can't be underestimated either. Dolly Palace's current strength is still very strong. Immediately issue the highest level of alert. The 4C's celestial master leaped and flew away as he spoke. Yes, the two disciples shouted. The disciple surnamed Tong immediately ran away. The disciple surnamed Mu wanted to follow, but after a few steps, he seemed to have thought of something and turned his head to look into the main hall. I almost forgot. These two guys haven't been hung up yet. If they escape, I'll be thrown into the cauldron. The disciple, surnamed Mu, snickered and immediately turned to walk inside. Looking at Su Yun and Faceless, who were still sitting on the ground, the corner of his mouth raised into a cold smile. What? Do you think that just because something small happened, you'll be safe? I've never thought of it that way. Su Yun leaned against the pillar of the main hall and shook his head. Then what are you thinking about? I'm thinking that I'll always be safe and sound. Always safe and sound? The disciple, surnamed Mu's eyes widened, and then he laughed out loud. Ha! Don't you understand your current situation? Do you look like you're fine now? You'll soon be like the pigs here, stripped naked and hung up. Do you understand? Ha ha! Oh, is that so? Maybe the situation won't be as you think. Su Yun said, and then suddenly stood up. Seeing that, Faceless, who was at the side, also stood up. The two of them acted as if nothing had happened. Seeing that, the disciple surnamed Mu was startled. He quickly retreated and looked at Su Yun in fear. You all were fine. Su Yun exerted a bit of force, and the iron chains immediately shattered. The disciple, surnamed Mu, turned pale with fright, as if he had seen a ghost, and almost fell to the ground. He said in fear, "Wasn't your immortal power sealed? How can it be like this? Who told you that my immortal power was sealed?" Su Yun tidied up his messy clothes, supported the sword sheath, took out the death sword, and walked out of the door. Throw him into the cauldron. Yes. Faceless walked straight towards the disciple, surnamed Mu. Seeing that, the disciple, surnamed Mu, screamed out loud. He suddenly exploded and slapped towards Faceless' head. However, just as his palm was about to hit Faceless' head suddenly burst out with a circle of golden light. The palm smashed onto his head, immediately releasing a kacha sound. The palm actually cracked, as if it had been hit by something hard. Ah! The disciple, surnamed Mu, screamed miserably. He covered his palm and fell down. But before he could land on the ground, he was grabbed by the collar by Faceless and directly walked towards the cauldron. When the immortals who were being hung saw Faceless' ferocious appearance, none of them dared to breathe loudly. The disciple, surnamed Mu, struggled frantically, but Faceless' hand was like an iron pincer. No matter how hard he tried, he could not break free. "Let me go, bastard!" The disciple, surnamed Mu, gritted his teeth and urged his technique again, attacking Faceless' body. However, no matter how he used his technique, no matter how much strength he used, Faceless' body was still unharmed. His body seemed to be made of meteoric iron, invulnerable to swords and spears, and impervious to fire and water. The disciple, surnamed Mu's technique could not do anything to him at all. Rumble, 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 the huge cauldron's heavy lid was directly lifted by Faceless with one hand. The terrifying scene inside immediately reflected in the disciple, surnamed Mu's eyes. The disciple, surnamed Mu, had never thought that there would be a day when he would be thrown into a cauldron. He screamed and struggled frantically, but it was all in vain. He watched as Faceless directly tore off all his limbs, leaving only his body as a stick, and threw him into the cauldron. He closed the lid and even pressed on the four sides of the lid. The lid was twisted, and without immortal power, it was impossible to open it. However, at that moment, the disciple, surnamed Mu's limbs were all broken, and he was being roasted by the cauldron's evil fire. How could he have the strength to struggle? Waves of miserable screams came out from the cauldron, but it did not last for long before it slowly disappeared. Seeing that, Faceless retracted his gaze and ran out of the hall, chasing after Su Yun, who had already walked out of the hall. Su Yun walked towards the mountain gate. At this moment, almost all the people in the Eight Harmonies sect were attracted by Wei Ming and the rest, and no one knew that the people who wanted to take action against the Eight Harmonies sect had already entered the interior of the Eight Harmonies sect. "Master, I have already done as you instructed." Faceless chased after him and cupped his fists. "Yes." Su Yun looked ahead, nodded, and said indifferently, "Release the signal. Inform Xing Bai, Qin Xianlong, and the others to prepare to take action." "Yes." "After releasing the signal, you should also prepare. We'll be at the mountain gates soon." The corner of Su Yun's mouth raised slightly, but that smile was filled with malevolence. Chapter 1054. Boom! Outside the mountain gate, Wei Ming, who was engaged in an intense battle, smashed an elite disciple of the Eight Harmonies gate into pieces with a single punch. The Dali Linglong Palace disciples behind him slowly squeezed their way in. Wei Ming hadn't brought many people with him this time. They were only a small group, but they couldn't be underestimated. These were the elites of the Dali Linglong Palace that Wei Ming had carefully selected. Every single one of them had practiced the Dali Linglong art to the point of perfection. If someone who didn't understand the Dali Linglong art fought against these disciples, they might not be able to gain the upper hand even if their cultivation was higher. After all, the Dali Linglong art could see through a person's inner thoughts. However, the Dali Linglong art had a huge disadvantage, and that was that it could only be used in a one-on-one battle. In other words, it was very difficult for someone proficient in the Dali Linglong art to defeat two opponents, because he could only see through one person's thoughts. Wei Ming had asked these disciples to surround him and charge forward. Even if one of them died, it would be enough to make his heart ache. "Everyone stop!" At this moment, a low voice suddenly rang out from within the mountain gate. This voice was dignified and solemn. It was deep and melodious, causing people to tremble unconsciously. The elders of the Eight Harmonies Gate immediately realized who this voice belonged to and immediately shouted, "Everyone stop! Stop!" As the voice rang out, the people of the Eight Harmonies Gate, who had wanted to surround Wei Ming and the others, immediately retreated and gathered in front of the mountain gate, staring at these people with vigilance. Wei Ming also immediately raised his hand, indicating for the disciples not to act rashly. He knew that 4C's heavenly sovereign had already arrived, and now was the time for the real battle. He only slowly pushed forward, acting as if he was going to charge in. In reality, he didn't dare to actually charge in. The Eight Harmonies Gate's headquarters was right inside. If he went in, it wouldn't be easy to come out again. Therefore, his main goal was to lure 4C's heavenly sovereign out. Since he had already come out, Wei Ming's mission was complete. At this moment, a wave of cheers rang out from within the Eight Harmonies Gate. "Welcome, Sect Master! Welcome, Sect Master! Welcome, Sect Master!" The cheers were like a wave. The disciples standing in front of the mountain gate also cupped their fists and bowed towards the gate in unison, their expressions respectful as they cheered loudly. When the voice stopped, he saw an old man walking out of the mountain gate. The old man carried a Taoist sword on his back and held a horsetail whisk in his hand. He was dressed in a grayish-brown Taoist robe and had a head full of white hair. He looked somewhat like an immortal. However, this was only the surface. The old man swept his gaze over Wei Ming and the disciples of the Dali Palace as a strange light flashed in his eyes. He then spoke in an indifferent voice. "Elder Wei Ming of the Dali Palace? Today, you've personally come to my Eight Harmonies Gate. May I know the reason for your visit?" It's said that the School of Eight Unity has been capturing immortals everywhere to use for the sect master's cultivation and alchemy. How can we, the immortals, ignore such a matter that angers both humans and gods? 4C's Empyrean, Wei Ming has come here today to seek justice for those immortals you refined to death. Wei Ming stared at the 4C's heavenly venerate as he spoke. "Oh, Elder Ming Wei, what do you mean by that? What living immortal? I don't know where you heard such a rumor," said the 4C's heavenly venerate with a confused expression. 4C's demonic Taoist, don't try to quibble. That matter of yours has already spread throughout the immortal world. I've heard from my disciples that even the disciples of my Dali Palace have been harmed by your hands. If I don't seek justice from you today, won't others say that my Dali Palace is afraid of your 8-unity gate in the future? Wei Ming shouted coldly, "Cut the crap and make your move. If we don't fight today, I won't let this matter rest." Let this matter rest? The Four Seas Heavenly Venerate shook his head and said indifferently, "Don't worry, Elder Wei Ming. Even if you let this matter rest, I won't. Since you've already delivered yourself to me, don't blame me. If I can throw you into the cauldron, I believe that it won't take long for the alchemy to be refined." "You've really done such an infuriating thing," Wei Ming said angrily when he heard that. However, the Four Seas Heavenly Venerate no longer had the patience to talk nonsense with him. "Disciples, listen up. Follow me to take down the traitors of the Dali Palace." "Yes." With that, the Four Seas Heavenly Venerate leaped and charged at Wei Ming. The disciples of the 8-unity gate also charged over. A great battle was about to break out. Since it had already come to this, there was nothing more to say. The Four Seas Heavenly Venerate was also prepared and didn't want to keep the peace. "Everyone, pay attention." A low and deep roar came out. Wei Ming's expression was solemn as he stared at the charging Four Seas Heavenly Venerate. He activated the immortal force throughout his body, and his eyes suddenly lit up. A mysterious aura shot out from his eyes and directly enveloped the Four Seas Heavenly Venerate. "It's like, Master, be careful. That's the Dali Palace technique." An elder immediately shouted when he saw Wei Ming's actions. "Don't worry. I don't care about a mere Dali Palace technique." The Four Seas Heavenly Venerate bellowed as he spun the horsetail whisk in his hand. 3 pure ones. As his voice fell, his body turned into a series of afterimages. In the blink of an eye, the Four Seas Heavenly Venerate had split into 3. These 3 Four Seas Heavenly Venerates were almost identical. They lined up in a row and charged at Wei Ming. Wei Ming immediately felt immense pressure when his target became 3, and he didn't know which was the real body and which was the clone. He hurriedly stopped the Dali Palace technique and retreated. He waved his hands and executed an immortal art. However, these 3 Four Seas Heavenly Venerates all possessed extraordinary strength. They quickly spread out and avoided Wei Ming's immortal art. They attacked from the front, left, and right. Their seemingly soft horsetail whisks flew directly at Wei Ming. Although Wei Ming was powerful, he was only an elder of the Dali Palace. How could he compare to the mighty sect master of the 8-unity gate, the Four Seas Heavenly Venerate? The difference in immortal force alone was not small. The difference in immortal arts and Dharma treasures was even greater. Wei Ming wasn't an idiot. He knew that his mission this time wasn't to kill the Four Seas Heavenly Venerate. He didn't have the ability to kill a powerhouse like this. Therefore, he decisively gave up on attacking and focused all his energy on defense. As he retreated, he used his immortal artifact to defend. Rays of multicolored light enveloped his body. Four Seas Celestial Venerate wildly brandished his horsetail whisk, and a large number of yellow fire talismans appeared around the whisk. These fire talismans seemed to have a life of their own as they uniformly rushed towards Wei Ming. Dong, 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 dong. Wei Ming had created a total of 12 barriers, but 11 of them were destroyed by a single attack from these fire talismans. His body shook violently, and the immortal chi in his body was in turmoil. He couldn't withstand a single attack from the Four Seas Heavenly Venerate. His opponent was at least a level higher than him. The gap between them was far too great. He could only use his ultimate move. Wei Ming gritted his teeth and retreated a few steps. Suddenly, he raised both his hands into the air. A rippling circle emerged from his hands and rose straight into the sky. This rippling circle was especially miraculous. It quickly rose into the air, dispersing the immortal energy, scattering the thick clouds, directly entering 10,000 li above. The whirlpool quickly expanded, a 7-colored screen of light instantly covering the entire heavens. Four Seas Heavenly Venerate, don't be arrogant. Do you really think you can break this immortal art like this? Wei Ming shouted. His eyes were emitting 7 colors. The great exquisite technique. It's not as simple as you think. As soon as he finished speaking, countless eyes suddenly appeared on the colorful light screen that covered the sky. These eyes were all white, and each of them was as large as the sun and moon. As soon as they appeared, they looked down in unison, and every single eye revealed extremely terrifying energy. They seemed to be able to see through everything in the world. Almost all existences that were enveloped by the light screen were seen by them, and there was no concealment at all. The 4C Celestial was stunned. However, he had already launched his attack and could no longer retract it. Although he didn't know what immortal art this was, he wasn't afraid. Although Wei Ming was strong, he wasn't stronger than him. Heaven and earth Tao art. The 4C's Celestial roared. The horsetail whisk in his hand transformed into a massive white tiger, which smashed towards Wei Ming with astonishing momentum. The white tiger charged over. Wei Ming wanted to dodge, but the white tiger seemed to be intelligent and followed closely behind him, pouncing him onto the ground and madly biting him. A shocking scene appeared. Although the white tiger looked extremely ferocious, baring its fangs and brandishing its claws, it didn't leave a single scar on Wei Ming's body. However, this didn't mean that Wei Ming was fine. He could clearly feel that the white tiger was devouring him. It wasn't devouring his physical body, but the immortal force in his body. If he didn't get rid of this white tiger, it wouldn't take long for the immortal qi in his body to be completely devoured by the white tiger. Wei Ming gritted his teeth. He suddenly reached out and quickly tapped the white tiger's abdomen a few times, activating a bit of immortal qi. When his fingers touched the white tiger's abdomen, the white tiger's pressure on him immediately lessened. Wei Ming took the opportunity to flip out. Before he could even stand firm, he hurriedly activated his immortal art and attacked the white tiger. A white light struck the white tiger's body. The sturdy white tiger immediately disappeared without a trace. The 4C Celestial's move had been immediately broken. Oh! Seeing this, the 4C's Celestial immediately understood. He raised his head to look at the screen of light in the sky, then glanced at Wei Ming. He immediately sneered. So that's how it is. I really underestimated the grand exquisite art. This move seems to be able to peer into the mind of anything that is enveloped, right? You saw my inner thoughts just now and found out the flaw in my heaven and earth Tao technique. That's how you broke it, right? With that, 2 of the 3 clones of the 4C's Celestial disappeared. They stood not far away from Wei Ming. If the grand exquisite art was so easy to deal with, then the 4C's Celestial clans wouldn't be so afraid of it. Wei Ming stood up and said in a low voice, "Afraid?" The 4C's Celestial shook his head. That's something only the weak have. Even if the grand exquisite art has such a miraculous way of using it, this old Taoist is not afraid. With that, he took the Tao sword from behind his back. Holding it with one hand, he slowly pointed the tip of the sword towards the sky. Wei Ming, in the end, you're just a frog at the bottom of a well. You don't know the power of heaven and earth, and you don't know how terrifying the universe is. Today, this old Taoist will use some methods to let you see what true power is and what can truly make people afraid. With that, the Tao sword suddenly split apart, turning into dust that flew into the sky. In that instant, Wei Ming suddenly understood. This wasn't a sword at all, but an immortal artifact. Chapter 1055. Everything in the world has spirituality, but the spirituality of all things is controlled by humans. This immortal artifact was refined by me using the spirituality of all things. The spirit of the myriad Taos contains the power of all things, and it is indestructible. This time, let this old Taoist spirit of the myriad Taos break your great, exquisite technique. The 4C's Heavenly Sovereign's majestic voice reverberated through the heavens and earth. The disciples of the 8 Unity Gate and the Dali Ling Long Palace who were still fighting all retreated. They stopped their attacks and looked at this scene in shock. A battle between supreme experts was not something that ordinary people could understand. The sword turned to dust, and floated in the air, quickly transforming into an enormous black shadow. This black shadow wore a Taoist robe, held a horsetail whisk, and carried a huge sword on its back. It looked like wood, but it was actually the Four Seas' heavenly sovereign. It pulled out the Taoist sword on its back, and its huge and terrifying arm moved like a moving mountain, thrusting towards the sky that was filled with white eyes. Buzz, 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 buzz. The void trembled violently, layer upon layer like waves. The ferocious sword seemed like it was going to pierce a hole in the sky. This sword shook the past and dazzled the present. This sword caused all things to tremble. This sword was like Pangu splitting open the heavens. This sword was like a sword that could destroy the world. Wei Ming had never seen this sword before, but looking at its aura, he understood that his technique was about to be broken by the opponent. He knew that the Four Seas' heavenly sovereign was powerful, but he had never thought that he would be this powerful. The people of the Dali Ling Long Palace trembled. Their eyes were wide open as they watched this magnificent scene unfold before them. On the other hand, the people of the Eight Unity sect looked at the sky excitedly, gazing at the majestic figure. No matter who it was, they all yearned for power. The power displayed by the Four Seas' heavenly sovereign had deeply conquered these people. This sword, Elder definitely won't be able to withstand it. What should we do? The Four Seas' heavenly sovereign is too powerful. Even if we continue to stay here, I'm afraid we'll lose our lives. Do you want to escape? Not to mention betraying Dali Ling Long Palace. Even if you escape now, you might not be able to escape. Then what should we do? No matter what, let's get close to the Elder first and work together with him to break out. All right. These elite disciples quickly recovered from a shock of the formidable power displayed by Heavenly Venerate Four Seas. All of them turned around and rushed towards Wei Ming. You want to leave? Since you're here today, don't even think about leaving. The elders of the Eight Harmonies Gate rushed out and activated their transcendent artifacts. The space around the elite disciples suddenly distorted. If anyone touched the distorted space, their physical body would be distorted. Two disciples were caught off guard and were directly smashed into the distorted space. Their physical bodies were twisted into pieces, and their souls didn't even have the chance to escape. They died instantly. Seeing this, the elite disciples hurriedly retreated and gathered together, looking around nervously. From the looks of it, the Eight Unity School wasn't going to let them off today. Boom! At this moment, an earth-shattering explosion rang out. Everyone looked towards the source of the voice, only to see that the incomparably gigantic spirit of the Myriad Tao had already smashed the gigantic sword in its hand onto the rainbow-colored light screen in the sky. The light screen released a loud rumbling sound, and a large number of cracks appeared on the spot where the gigantic sword had struck. These cracks spread out like a spider web, and the white eyes that covered the light screen also began to slowly shatter. What a spectacular sword strike! Wei Ming's face paled. Now that the spell had been broken, even the Four Seas' heavenly sovereign wouldn't be able to see through it, let alone defend against it. He was originally not a match for the other party in terms of strength, and now that he had even lost this last bit of advantage, he really didn't have any other methods left. Wei Ming gritted his teeth as he stared at the trapped disciples of the Great Ling Long Palace. His expression was extremely ugly. He wanted to leave, but he couldn't. It was even more impossible to rely on his disciples to break out of the encirclement. At this moment, he couldn't advance, nor could he retreat. There was already no other way out. Wei Ming had originally thought that he would be able to delay the Four Seas' heavenly sovereign for a period of time with the help of the Great Ling Long technique, but reality and his thoughts were always the opposite. The Four Seas' heavenly sovereign's methods were far beyond his expectations. Was it a dead end? Wei Ming sighed inwardly. Chirp! At this moment, a ray of light suddenly flew over from afar. Under such circumstances, the sound was especially ear-piercing. It was like a sharp sword that pierced through the air, directly slashing towards the gigantic spirit of the Myriad Tao in the distance. However, this ray of light wasn't aimed at the vital points of the spirit of the Myriad Tao. Instead, it fiercely slashed towards the gigantic sword in its hand that was bombarding the light screen in the sky. Crack. A crisp sound resounded throughout the entire octave door. A shocking scene unfolded before everyone's eyes. Without any obstruction, the ray of light seemed to have pierced through a layer of window paper, cutting the sword of the spirit of the myriad Tao in half. It directly cut the gigantic sword in half. How was this possible? However, this was not the end. After the ray of light broke through the sword, it turned around in the air and actually launched another attack towards the spirit of the myriad Tao. This strange scene caused everyone to be dumbfounded. Some people rubbed their eyes and stared at the other side. That ray of light was simply invincible. It quickly approached the spirit of the myriad Tao and directly entered its chest. The gigantic body of the spirit of the myriad Tao immediately froze, as if it had been frozen. At the same time, the Four Seas heavenly sovereign, who was standing in the distance, had an extremely ugly expression on his face. He turned his head and looked towards the interior of the sect, only to see two figures flying out and directly soaring into the sky. Taking a closer look, he realized that these two people were the two people he had seen captured in the main hall. One of them was wearing brown clothes and a mask, while the other was wearing a cloak, but at this moment, the cloaked person's entire body was overflowing with a thick, pitch-black gas. This is devil energy? The Empyrean of the Four Seas could not believe the auras he had sensed. Devil Chi? Devil Cultivator? Could it be? The Devil Cultivator had entered the immortal world? How did they pass through the gate of the immortal world? How could they hide it from the eyes of the immortal court? Who are you people? He shouted loudly. Puff, 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 puff. At this time, a series of explosions suddenly sounded out from the myriad Tao's side. Everyone looked over, only to see that the myriad Tao's gigantic body had suddenly exploded with a large number of transparent holes. The stream of light that had just entered its body was like a swimming dragon, crazily flying inside and outside its body. In the blink of an eye, the myriad Tao's gigantic body had already shattered into pieces. What? The Empyrean of the Four Seas was stunned. His moment of blankness gave the others an opportunity. Su Yun, who was wearing a cloak, had already rushed over. He formed a claw with one hand, and like a ferocious beast, he pounced forward, and at the same time, the stream of light that had created countless holes in the myriad Tao's body also rushed over. This time, many people could clearly see that it was not a stream of light, but a pitch-black longsword that was flying at high speed. The Empyrean of the Four Seas hurriedly waved his horsetail whisk, and a circle of white light formed a barrier around his body. However, this seemingly powerful defense instantly collapsed when that person approached. Before the Four Seas Empyrean could even react, his left chest was pierced by the other party's claw, and a sharp sword that flew over from behind pierced through his right chest. The old Four Seas Empyrean's chest was almost completely pierced through, and he was instantly severely injured. Wei Ming was stunned. He knew that Su Yun was not an ordinary strong person. To be able to kill Kuei Yang, how could he be someone that an ordinary person could contend against? However, he never thought that Su Yun would be so strong that he could defeat his enemy in one move. The strength of the Eight Harmonies sect and the Great Linglong Palace was not much different, but the strength of the Four Seas Empyrean was not weaker than Kuei Yang. Kuei Yang was only relying on the great exquisite technique. If not for it, he would definitely not be a match for the Four Seas Empyrean. However, such a supreme expert could not even withstand a single move from Su Yun. How could this be? Could it be that after that guy killed Kuei Yang, his strength had increased by an astonishing amount? Wei Ming thought in shock. However, he did not know that the current Su Yun had already activated the state of the Devil Saint Devil Soul. Since he had decided to kill the Four Seas Empyrean, he had to act with the necessary intention. The Four Seas Empyrean trembled a few times. He looked at the man in front of him who was covered in dense devil chi and had a gloomy and pale face under the cloak. His eyes were filled with fear and confusion. Ugh! Blood flowed from the corner of his mouth as his throat rolled. He stared at Su Yun and said weakly, "Who exactly are you?" "Who I am is not important. What's important is that from today onwards, there will no longer be a person called the Four Seas Empyrean in the entire immortal world." Su Yun said indifferently. When the Four Seas Empyrean heard this, his face twisted. I have no enmity with you. Why do you want to kill me?" "I only killed you because I wanted to borrow something from you." "Something? What? What thing?" "Your Excellency's head." Su Yun extended his left hand, and the death sword that had flown out immediately turned around and returned to his palm. When the Four Seas Empyrean heard this, his pupils dilated several times. "All right, I forgot. Other than this reason, there is another very important reason." Su Yun laughed sinisterly. The death sword flew out and fiercely slashed towards the neck of the Four Seas Empyrean. "That is, you have designs on the body of a god." With a shout, a sharp sword approached his neck at a speed that distorted the void. The Four Seas Empyrean was shocked. At this critical moment, he could no longer hold it in. His body suddenly changed, and his entire body rapidly shrunk. In the end, he turned into a ray of light and escaped from Su Yun's palm, fleeing into the distance. But before he could fly for long, Su Yun caught up to him. Activating the Imperial Battle Robe, the Four Seas Empyrean's immortal power was frantically extracted, and his immortal technique could no longer be maintained, causing him to fall from the sky. Demon Trapping Curse. As soon as the Four Seas Empyrean landed on the ground, he threw out an immortal technique. A pitch-black talisman flew out from his palm and directly struck Su Yun's body. The talisman emitted a sizzling sound, but quickly exploded, and a large number of pitch-black thick chains extended out from the talisman, directly binding Su Yun's body. Seeing this, the Four Seas Empyrean immediately turned around and took the opportunity to escape. However, Su Yun was not in a hurry to chase after him. He slowly flew forward and moved his arm slightly. The iron chain immediately split apart, unable to restrain him at all. The Four Seas Empyrean knew that this time he had met with an incredible supreme expert. But no matter what, the talisman had at least bought him some time. Even if it was just a little bit, it was still very good for him. However, Su Yun did not chase after him, causing him to feel extremely nervous. However, at this moment, a ray of gray light suddenly struck in front of the Four Seas Empyrean. Before the Four Seas Empyrean could react, a large hand suddenly grabbed his neck and lifted him up. The Four Seas Empyrean was in pain. From the corner of his eyes, he finally saw the appearance of the person who was strangling him. It was the masked immortal. Chapter 1056. The masked fellow had boundless strength. He grabbed onto the Four Seas Empyrean and threw him fiercely towards Su Yun. The terrifying power acted on the Four Seas Empyrean's body, causing him to be unable to resist. The Four Seas Sky Sovereign's body was like a stone thrown out, falling towards Su Yun's head. Even though his body was in the air, it was still trembling crazily, as if the power unleashed by the masked fellow was still lingering on his body. Seeing that, the death sword in Su Yun's hand quickly spun, creating rows of sword images. Like a whirlpool, it flew towards the incoming Four Seas Sky Sovereign. Substitute Talisman. At the critical moment, the Four Seas Sky Sovereign waved the talisman, and his body exploded with a bang. Su Yun missed. At the same time, he discovered that the space around him had suddenly distorted, and the distorted space could actually move, directly approaching his body. Vaguely, he could see that there seemed to be something behind the distorted space. In the end, the Four Seas Sky Sovereign was still the Four Seas Sky Sovereign. At that moment, Su Yun had already activated the Devil, Saint Devil Soul state, and his strength was at the peak of the spirit realm. Even immortals could be easily crushed, but he had relied on his sinister methods to forcefully delay Su Yun. Su Yun had originally planned to end the battle quickly. Otherwise, he would not have let Wei Ming attract the attention of the Four Seas Empyrean while he suddenly attacked from the back, catching the Four Seas Empyrean off guard. His goal was to not let the Four Seas Empyrean be too prepared and kill him. If the Four Seas Sky Sovereign did not die, Su Yun's subsequent plans would be difficult to carry out. The void slowly approached Su Yun, but as the distorted void got closer and closer, the degree of its distortion became weaker and weaker. By the time it got close to Su Yun, it was only slightly wrinkled like a ripple and had long since lost its lethality. Seeing this, the Four Seas Sky Sovereign, who was hiding behind the distorted void, immediately cried out, "Do you have a divine object that can offset immortal power?" Good eyesight. As expected of the Four Seas Sky Sovereign, you are indeed experienced and knowledgeable. However, this is not to offset immortal power, but to absorb divine power. Su Yun said indifferently. Damn it. Celestial Venerate Four Seas appeared, but he was in an extremely sorry state. The two large holes in his chest were still bleeding profusely, and the immortal power in his body was also leaking out. His heart was completely shattered. Although he wouldn't die now, if he didn't think of a way to heal the wounds on his body, he would die sooner or later due to the loss of too much celestial power. Knowing that Su Yun still had such a divine object, how could the Four Seas Empyrean have any interest in continuing to fight? He immediately shouted at the people from the Eight Harmonies Gate, "Everyone, kill him for me!" When the people of the Eight Harmonies School heard the words of their sect master, they were all startled. How could they contend against a person that even the powerful sect master couldn't defeat? Seeing his disciples and even the elders standing in place, not daring to move, Celestial Master Four Seas flew into a rage. "You dare disobey my orders. Quick, attack together. Kill him." Sect Master. An elder seemed to want to say something, but before he could say anything, a fire talisman suddenly flew over and stuck to his forehead. Then it exploded, and the elder's body and soul were instantly torn to pieces. He died a miserable death. Everyone turned pale with fright. They looked over and realized that the fire talisman was released by the Four Seas Empyrean. His sunken eyes were already red, and he had become crazy. "If anyone dares to disobey my orders again, the only outcome will be death." When the people from the Eight Harmonies Gate heard this, they were all terrified. They knew that the Four Seas Empyrean had been forced into a corner and did not care about the lives of his disciples. They were completely forced by the situation. The people from the Eight Harmonies Gate were already forced into a corner and prepared to attack. "People of the Eight Harmonies Gate, listen up." Just then, Su Yun suddenly spoke up. He shouted loudly, and his voice spread throughout the entire Eight Harmonies Gate. The countless people from the Eight Harmonies Gate all turned to look at him. "People of the Eight Harmonies Gate, don't be stubborn. Your sect master, the Four Seas Empyrean, is cruel and heartless. He willfully kills the innocent and even uses living people as materials to refine pills. Not to mention the countless immortal sects in the entire immortal world that have suffered from him. Just your Eight Harmonies Gate alone, I believe many of your disciples have been thrown into the cauldron to refine pills, right? Such a person is not even worthy of being an immortal. What qualifications does he have to be the sect leader of the Eight Harmonies Gate? What qualifications does he have to make you work for him? What reason does he have to live in this world? People of the Eight Harmonies Gate, wake up. It's still not too late. Otherwise, you will only lose your lives in vain along with the Four Seas Empyrean. The voice was extremely loud and clear, spreading throughout the entire Eight Harmonies Gate. The people of the Eight Harmonies Gate all froze on the spot. They stared blankly at Su Yun, and many people also quietly looked at the Four Seas Empyrean, only to see that the Four Seas Empyrean's expression was extremely ugly, like charcoal. His expression was sinister, and he gritted his teeth as if he wanted to eat these people up. "You all dare to disobey my orders." The Four Seas Empyrean was so angry that his entire body was trembling. "Your orders no longer have any effect on anyone." Su Yun raised his sword and charged forward. His movements were like the wind, and he moved quickly. Seeing that, the Four Seas Empyrean no longer hesitated and immediately turned to run. He had originally wanted the people from the Eight Harmonies Gate to delay Su Yun for him so that he could find an opportunity to escape. However, he did not expect that his orders would no longer have any effect. None of the disciples from the Eight Harmonies Gate went up to support him. They no longer knew what to do. Kill. Right at this moment, waves of battle cries suddenly sounded out from behind the Eight Harmonies gate, and a large number of figures appeared in the sky. These figures were densely packed, and there were countless of them, and all of them moved like lightning, instantly attacking this place. Anyone who wanted to resist was immediately suppressed, and these people swept through everything in their path, sweeping through everything in their path. All of the people from the Eight Harmonies gate were chased over, and they had almost no chance to retaliate. Not only were there a large number of people who suddenly appeared, every single one of them was extremely powerful and could stand shoulder to shoulder with the elite disciples of the Eight Harmonies gate. Seeing that so many people had suddenly appeared, the elders of the Eight Harmonies gate immediately panicked. Elder, what's going on? Who are these people? What should we do? Grand Elder. The disciples were completely panicking as they all moved towards the elders of the Eight Harmonies gate. At this moment, the Eight Harmonies gate was completely at a dead end. 4C Celestial Master was on the verge of death, and the disciples of the sect were also in danger. In fact, it was not surprising that the Eight Harmonies gate was in such a state today. When the upper echelons were already rotten, it would affect the lower echelons. Although 4C Celestial Master had tried his best to conceal his actions in recent years, many disciples of the Eight Harmonies gate were still aware of it. Therefore, many of them were fighting with the mentality of protecting themselves. Qin Qianlong, Xing Bai, and Xiang Yang charged out. Seeing that Wei Ming was in a rather sorry state and that the situation was gradually being controlled, Qin Qianlong and the other two immediately approached Wei Ming. Where's the Lord? Qin Qianlong asked. He went to chase after 4C's Celestial Master, Wei Ming said. The Lord has instructed us to take over as much as possible after taking control of this place. There's no need to plunder resources. The situation of the Eight Harmonies gate is a little different from what we expected. If we want to continue with the plan, it's better to take over. Hearing this, Xiang Yang immediately asked, Did the Lord say who will take over? It's not an open takeover, but a secret takeover. The person who will take over will naturally be the Lord, but we have to do it. Take control of the elders of the Eight Harmonies gate and wait for the Lord to return. As Wei Ming spoke, he sat down cross-legged and began to regulate his breathing. Seeing this, Xingbai took out 2 immortal pills and handed them over. Wei Ming took them, nodded, and said, Everyone, let's get to work. With the Lord's methods, 4C Celestial Master will not be able to escape. I believe you'll be back soon. Yes. Qin Qianlong, Xingbai, and Xiang Yang nodded and walked towards the crowd. At this moment, outside the Eight Harmonies gate, in the direction of the Qiong gate, 2 figures were frantically chasing each other. 4C's Celestial Master was fleeing like a madman. He did not dare to use his little immortal power elsewhere. He used all of it on flying, so much so that he did not use his immortal power to seal the 2 large holes in his chest. Blood gushed out crazily, splattering all along the way. 4C Celestial Master was already an arrow at the end of its flight, but Su Yun was still full of energy. He took in a breath of immortal qi and suddenly accelerated. In an instant, he rushed to the side of 4C's Celestial Master and punched. Bang! 4C's Celestial Master's body that was flying forward immediately made a 90-degree turn and fell down. But before he could land on the cloud below, a hand instantly grabbed his neck. The strength of the hand was so great that it almost deformed his neck. At this moment, 4C's Celestial Master did not have much immortal power left. He struggled frantically, but was unable to break free. He tried his best to open his eyes, and found that the one who was suppressing him was the masked man from before. There's no need to run anymore. This will only waste our time. Su Yun carried the death sword and descended from above. Standing not far from 4C Celestial Master, he glanced at the death sword in his hand and slowly approached 4C's Celestial Master. 4C Celestial Master had lived for so many years, but no one had ever been able to give him such a terrifying pressure, nor had anyone made him feel such hesitation and fear. Even Lin Yu Jing could not. Looking at the man walking over with that terrifying sword, The fear in 4C's celestial master's eyes could no longer be concealed. Who? Who are you? He asked weakly and fearfully. I'm a devil cultivator. Su Yun smiled slightly. Devil. Devil cultivator. 4C's celestial master's eyes widened. He stared blankly at Su Yun and muttered, when did such a powerful devil cultivator appear in the devil realm? This is impossible? Why is it impossible? Didn't you know about Changgu Inmo's methods back then? Su Yun raised his sword, killing intent bursting forth from his face. Could it be that your devil realm is going to attack the immortal realm? Looking at the raised sword, 4C's celestial master was completely terrified. I don't have that plan for now. Then please, don't kill me, okay? I'm willing to do anything for you. I'm sorry, but you have to die. Su Yun no longer hesitated. The death sword slashed down, and 4C's celestial master's head was instantly cut off. His body twitched crazily, and blood spurted out from his neck, directly splattering Su Yun and Faceless into bloody people. In front of two such powerful existences, the injured 4C's celestial master had no way of fighting back. He was slaughtered like a lamb. Su Yun extended his hand and caught the falling head. The facial features on the head were still squirming. Su Yun raised the head and stared at 4C's celestial master's face. He said indifferently, I don't want to touch the immortal realm for now, but your so-called immortal sect alliance can make a move. With that, he turned around and walked towards the octagonal gate with the head in his hand. Faceless, that body should be quite valuable. I'll reward it to you. Before he left, Su Yun suddenly blurted out a sentence. Faceless, who was still holding onto the body, hurriedly shouted, Thank you, my lord. As soon as he finished speaking, Nasia directly tore the body into pieces and put it into her interspatial bag. The famous sect leader of the octagonal gate, 4C's celestial master, died tragically just like that. Chapter 1057. When Su Yun brought the head of the 4C's Empyrean to the 8 Harmonies Gate, everyone in the 8 Harmonies Gate, including the elders, were shocked. Sect leader? The few elders began to tremble. If the 4C's Empyrean had been killed, what power did the 8 Harmonies Gate have to contend against these people? What was even more terrifying was that the people who came today were not ordinary people. The higher-ups of the 8 Harmonies Gate all knew each other. Qin Qianlong, the sect leader of the Hidden Dragon Hall, Xing Bai, the sect leader of the Carefree Palace. These two were incredible existences. In such a short period of time, so many immortal sects had come. Could it be that they wanted to destroy the 8 Harmonies Gate? Su Yun carried the head and slowly walked over. When the countless people from the 8 Harmonies Gate saw this scene and saw the bloody head of the 4C's Empyrean, their hearts seemed to stop. This was an unprecedented shock. His body was torn apart, and his soul was controlled by Faceless. The 4C's Empyrean was already dead. Su Yun swept his gaze across them. He could see the fear in the eyes of the people from the 8 Harmonies Gate. I did not come here today to destroy your 8 Harmonies Gate, so you don't have to worry too much, Su Yun said indifferently. With that said, countless people secretly heaved a sigh of relief. The Celestial Lord of the 4C's has committed heinous crimes and slaughtered immortals. He has committed heinous crimes that deserve the indignation of both men and gods. Everyone has the right to punish him. Today, we are here to uphold justice in the world and kill him. Obey the heavens, obey the people, and from now on, the 8 Unity Gate will do as it should. With that, Su Yun turned and walked towards Wei Ming. Master, Wei Ming immediately cupped his fists. Control those elders and have them start the work of appeasing the people of the 8 Harmonies Gate. After that, have everyone come and see me. I will wait for them in the main hall, Su Yun said in a low voice. Yes, master. Wei Ming nodded and immediately went to do it. Su Yun walked towards the main hall of the 8 Harmonies Gate alone, while Wei Ming started to deal with the matters here with Qin Qianlong and the rest. There were simply too many people in the 8 United Sect. With so many people, it was impossible for him to control all of them. At present, he could only use the elders of the 8 United Sect to control them, just like the Great Linglong Palace. Towards this kind of thing, Su Yun was quite familiar with it. After all, he had done it before, but what Su Yun was more concerned about was not taking over the Eight Unity sect, but something else. He returned to the main hall. The stench of decay still lingered in the hall. There were still many immortals hanging above the hall. They were naked, and their immortal energy was sealed. Their eyes were dim, and they no longer had any hope of survival. Seeing Su Yun coming in, the immortals powerlessly raised their heads. Seeing that the person who came in was the guy who killed Disciple Mu, their eyes finally revealed a bit of hope for survival. Some people moaned weakly as if they wanted to say something. However, they did not even have the strength to speak at this moment. Su Yun was not in a hurry to put the immortals down. Instead, he walked around and carefully examined every single immortal. There were about a few hundred immortals here. The strong ones were at the third stage of the Spirit Profound Immortal Realm, and the weak ones had just entered the Spirit Profound Immortal Realm. Because they were not wearing any clothes, Su Yun did not know who they were. Su Yun thought for a moment, then called out, "Faceless." Yes, Faceless, who was guarding outside the door, immediately rushed in. With a leap, like an agile ape, he wandered around the iron chains, and in an instant, the iron chains that were hanging the immortals were all shattered into powder, but the immortals were not affected in the slightest, and only fell from the top one by one, falling to the ground. They lay on the ground for a moment before slowly recovering. The iron chains were shattered, and the immortal energy in their bodies had recovered. In a moment, they were able to stand up, but all of them were still very weak. Their faces were pale, and their bodies were swaying. At this moment, they were more or less uncomfortable. Many women used their few immortal power to create a set of clothes to cover their bodies. Shinner and the other immortals walked in front of Su Yun and cupped their fists to thank him. "Thank you, Immortal, for saving us. We are extremely grateful. Thank you. Thank you, sir, for saving us. Thank you." Although they had been saved, many of them did not have the slightest trace of a smile on their faces. After experiencing such a nightmarish event, no matter who it was, they would not be able to walk out of this shadow in a short period of time. There's no need to thank me. Today's actions were all done by the sect leader of the Hidden Dragon Hall, Lord Qin Qianlong, and the Hall Master of the Carefree Palace, Lord Xingbai. It has nothing to do with me. If you want to thank me, then go and thank these two. Su Yun said with a smile. Hidden Dragon Hall and Carefree Palace. The immortals were all startled. At this time, they saw a few people walking in from the door. They were Qin Qianlong, Xiang Yang, and the elders of the Eight Harmonies sect. Seeing that Su Yun had placed all of them down, the elders revealed astonished expressions. Hall Leader Qin, Sect Leader Xing, thank you for your help. Among the immortals, there were some who had seen the two of them before. Seeing the two of them enter, they immediately bowed and thanked them. When the rest of the people knew that the two of them were the sect leaders of the two great immortal sects, they anxiously went forward to thank them. The two of them were confused. They probably did not know what was going on. So they looked towards Su Yun, but seeing Su Yun giving them a look, the two of them understood and immediately helped everyone up and laughed. There's no need to thank us. We are all immortal friends. We saw injustice and pulled out our swords to help. Why do you need to thank us? This time, if not for Hall Leader Qin and Hall Master Xing's help, I'm afraid that I, King Lu Si, would have died in the underworld. King Lu Si will definitely repay today's kindness. A handsome man walked forward and cupped his fist to express his thanks. Hearing that, Qin Qianlong was startled. He sized up the man and then asked, "You are called King Lu Si?" "That's right. You are the son of Guang Yuan Great Immortal Road?" "Hall Leader Qin knows my father?" King Lu Si asked in confusion. As soon as he said that, everyone present cried out in alarm. Qin Qianlong laughed bitterly. "I do know your father, but your father does not know me. Who in the entire immortal world does not know of Guang Yuan Great Immortal? I never thought that I would be able to save the son of Guang Yuan Great Immortal today. Is the Guang Yuan Great Immortal that you're talking about very powerful?" Su Yun saw that everyone revealed a look of shock and asked in confusion. "Powerful? Of course he's powerful," Qin Qianlong said in a low voice. A six-stage spirit profound God existence. How can he not be powerful? Six-stage spirit profound God? Su Yun was secretly shocked. Although he can't compare to you, Master, he is still a strong immortal. I'm afraid that even the masters of ordinary immortal sects can't compare to him. Guangyuan, great immortal, has not established a sect. If he has such thoughts, then this immortal boundary will have an unrivaled and powerful immortal sect. Qin Qianlong said seriously. Hearing that, Su Yun nodded but did not say anything. Qin Qianlong was a shrewd man. Knowing that the son of the immortal Guangyuan had been captured, it was hard to guarantee that there would be other powerful figures among these people. It was a good time to build a good relationship with them. Therefore, he immediately said, I'm afraid that you're all very weak now after suffering such a disaster. It must be quite difficult for you to return to your respective places. How about this? You could take a rest in the octagonal gate for a while and let me make the arrangements. Later, I'll select some guards to escort you back. Is that okay? Hearing this, everyone's faces revealed joy. If that's the case, then that's great. Hall Leader Qin is truly worthy of being the leader of a great sect. He has the demeanor of a great family. We will remember this kindness forever. Everyone thanked him profusely. Everyone is too polite. Qin Qianlong smiled slightly and waved his hand. Someone come. Sect leader, a disciple of the Hidden Dragon Hall, ran in. Quickly find some clothes for these friends to change into, and then take them down to rest for a while. Qin Qianlong said. Yes. The disciple cupped his fists and said, then turned around and said to those people, everyone, please follow me. Thank you. Everyone followed the disciple and walked out. After these people left, Su Yun took a deep breath and threw the head of the four seas sky sovereign on the ground. Seeing the bloody head rolling on the ground, the elders of the octave door still felt fear and did not dare to look straight at it. Xiangyang, those people from the Jingyu Emperor Palace should still be in control, right? Su Yun said indifferently. Yes. Let them bring the head of the four seas sky sovereign back to the Jingyu Emperor Palace. Let them bring it back? Xiangyang was puzzled. Master, why? His personality was like this. He would ask whatever he wanted to ask. Su Yun did not answer him, but turned to look at the elders. When the people from the Jingyu Emperor Palace bring the head of the four seas sky sovereign back, I hope that you can rush to the Jingyu Emperor Palace as soon as possible. As soon as these words were said, everyone present came to a sudden realization. Su Yun wanted to shift the blame for the death of the four seas sky sovereign onto the Jingyu Emperor Palace. This move could not be said to be vicious, but no one dared to say anything. Su Yun swept his gaze across the elders and said indifferently, I know what all of you are thinking, and I also understand what your concerns are, but, as you can see, the Hidden Dragon Hall, the Carefree Palace, the Great Linglong Palace, and the Immortal Seeking Sect are all under my command. If you are willing to submit to me and work for me, I can hand over the octave door to you and guarantee your continued prosperity. If you are not willing, I will not force you, but I hope that you can consider it carefully. Are you willing to be loyal to me? When the elders heard this, they looked at each other in dismay. However, after thinking for a while, they made a decision and kowtowed towards Su Yun. We are willing. Cheers rang out. Actually, these elders were not willing, but Su Yun's strength was there. No matter how nice his words were, no one dared to disobey his wishes. Very good. Su Yun nodded his head in satisfaction. From today onwards, it will be the Five-Sects Alliance. All of you make some preparations and immediately set off after organizing the octave door. Right. Remember to inform the Immortal Court. Chapter 1058. Most of the disciples of the Eight Harmony School did not know what was going on. They only thought that the other immortal sect had attacked and were extremely flustered. After the elders went to appease them, the various great immortal sects would retreat and the hearts of the people would calm down. After that, they would use the power in the hands of the elders to jointly elect a trustworthy elder as the new sect leader. And then the Eight Harmony School would be completely under Su Yun's control. Of course, for the sake of safety, the heart control pill had to be used. After the elders left, Qin Qianlong Xingbai and the others began to discuss the following matters with Su Yun. This operation was not only aimed at the Eight Harmonies sect. The main goal was to destroy the alliance of immortal sects led by the Feather Emperor Palace and coveting the body of the gods. The Eight Harmonies sect was just a prelude. It was the beginning for the four immortal sects, led by Su Yun, to take action against the alliance of the Feather Emperor Palace. The few of them discussed for more than an hour in the Great Hall before finally finalizing the initial plan. My lord, since that's the case, we will immediately make preparations. After the matter was settled, the few of them nodded their heads, full of confidence. This time, they had taken in the Eight Harmonies sect, and Su Yun's strength had increased explosively once again. The people in charge of the immortal sects also felt very motivated. Although they knew that the Four Seas Empyrean might not be Su Yun's match, they had never thought that even the famous Four Seas Empyrean would not be able to fight back against Su Yun. This was simply inconceivable. Su Yun, just what was his strength? To be able to follow such an inconceivably powerful immortal was not something that just anyone could do. The reason why there were so many immortal sects in the immortal world was because there were powerful existences that relied on them. They hoped to live under the immortal and obtain more benefits. Over time, so many immortal sects have been formed. Oh, right. My lord, since the Eight Harmonies sect has already surrendered, how should we solve some of the current problems of the Eight Harmonies sect? At this time, Xiang Yang suddenly cupped his fists and asked, "Problem?" Su Yun frowned. "What problem? The Four Seas Heavenly Sovereign has already been killed by my lord. However, according to my lord's plan, the person who killed the Four Seas Heavenly Sovereign is an expert from the frightening Feather Imperial Palace. My lord hopes to use the frightening Feather Imperial Palace's attack on the Eight Unity sect to split this immortal sect. This is indeed a very good idea. However, in this way, I'm afraid that even more immortal sects will side with the frightening Feather Imperial Palace. More immortal sects are siding with Jingyu Emperor Palace." "Xiangyang, which immortal sects are you referring to?" Su Yun asked. "Those immortals who were harmed by the Four Seas Celestial Lord. Those who had their family and friends captured by the Four Seas Celestial Lord. The Four Seas Celestial Lord refined this evil pill and harmed countless immortals. If they knew that the startling Feather Imperial Palace killed the Four Seas Celestial Lord, how could they not be grateful to the startling Feather Imperial Palace? If all of them were to come over to support the startling Feather King Palace, I'm afraid that even if someone from the Immortal Court were to arrive, they wouldn't be able to do anything to the startling Feather King Palace." Xiang Yang said seriously. When Qin Qianlong and Xingbai heard this, they both nodded and felt that it made sense. "You've thought it through very well." Su Yun laughed, and then said, "But there's one thing you need to understand. These people who are siding with the startling Feather Imperial Palace are most likely not that strong. We do not need to care about them. If they are strong, how could they not cause trouble for the Eight Harmonies sect? Instead, they allowed the Eight Harmonies sect to continue being so rampant. Even if they went to the startling Feather Imperial Palace to plead for mercy, it wouldn't be of much use. The Immortal Court wouldn't even care, and even if the Immortal Court accepted it, so what? Our main goal this time is to divide this alliance. As long as the other immortal sects are dissatisfied with the actions of the startling Feather Imperial Palace, then our goal this time will be achieved. But this time, the people you saved all thought that it was Halm Master Qin and Halm Master Xing who saved them. If they would tell anyone about this, isn't that even better?" The corner of Su Yun's mouth raised into a sinister smile. "This way, it will be much more convenient for us to do things." "Much more convenient?" The three of them looked at each other, unable to understand what Su Yun meant by that. However, it was inconvenient for them to ask. Since Su Yun was the leader, he naturally had his own thoughts. Xiang Yang was silent for a moment, his gaze inadvertently landing on the huge cauldron in the center of the hall. Shinner cupped her fists again. "Then, Master, how should we deal with the evil pill in the cauldron?" "Evil pill?" Hearing that, Su Yun remembered that there was something behind him that made the Eight Harmonies sect infamous. He turned around and sized up the pill furnace. The other two also cast their gazes over at the same time. Su Yun walked over, The fire of the evil pill furnace was gradually extinguishing. The pill furnace was still overflowing with a stench and a burnt smell. He took a deep breath, extended his hand, and opened the lid. It was chaotic inside, and there was a corpse that hadn't been refined yet. However, there was a bead that gave off a green light floating under the corpse. The bead was slowly absorbing the corpse, and the corpse's body gradually turned into particles that flowed into the bead bit by bit. The 4C's Empyrean spent so much effort to capture so many immortals just to refine such a pill. I believe this pill must be extraordinary. Qin Qianlong could not help but say. Seeing that, Xingbai immediately took a step forward, cupped his fists, and said, "Master, we cannot be like the 4C's Empyrean, using living people as materials to refine pills. Even if we are not considered good people, we cannot lose our bottom line. If we do so, I am afraid we are not even comparable to evil demons. However, since this pill has been refined, why not take it for your own use? Convert all the cultivations sealed in this pill into your own?" When Xiang Yang saw that Xingbai had said what he wanted to say first, he couldn't help but say, "That's right, my lord. The 4C's celestial venerate worked so hard to refine such an elixir. Now that it's in your hands, why don't you take it and increase your cultivation? If that's the case, it would not disappoint those immortals who were refined to death." Hearing that, Su Yun stared at the pill furnace in silence. What did this evil pill represent? A simple explanation: it was power. Wasn't the 4C's Empyrean going through so much trouble to refine this pill, just to use it to increase his own strength? Although it still hadn't reached the level that Celestial Venerate 4C's had requested, this pill could already be considered a divine pill. After absorbing the power of so many immortals, the power contained within it was sensed by everyone in the hall the instant the lid of the cauldron was opened. However, this pill was refined from countless immortal bodies. Even in the demon realm, Su Yun had never seen such a pill before. It was rare for Devil Cultivator to use the bodies of those magical beasts to refine pills, and most of the bodies of the magical beasts were dead. This kind of living being thrown into the cauldron was simply unheard of, unless it was an evil demon. It was not that Su Yun did not want this pill, but deep in his heart, there was an inexplicable feeling that rejected this pill. As a person, it was impossible for him not to reject it. It was impossible for him not to think about it, just because the pill contained an incomparably powerful power. Even if he had become a demon, even if he had become an immortal, he could not forget that he was just a human at the beginning. But could it be that he didn't want this power? In this world, although strength could not do everything, without strength, nothing could be done. Su Yin took a deep breath, his mind inadvertently thinking back to the events of his previous life and inadvertently thinking back to the past. With his current strength, he could change everything in the Sky Martial Continent and could also change a portion of the ultimate martial world. However, he could not do anything to the immortal world. Now that Qing'er had entered the immortal world, he had an inexplicable connection with it. If his own strength was not strong enough, then wouldn't the tragedy of his previous life repeat itself? Other than Qing'er, there were many other people that he needed to protect. Hu Qianmei, Huairo Muyu, Long Xinli, and so on. Even the true devil sect needed his protection. Even if this was a pill refined from a living person, could it be that he should give up? After a long struggle in his heart, he finally made a decision. Since this pill has already been refined, it should reflect its value, he said slowly. With that said, the three of them stopped talking. All of you can leave. Yes. The three of them cupped their fists and left. The door to the main hall was closed once again, and Su Yun was still standing in front of the cauldron. Although this place had already changed owners, the gloomy atmosphere in the main hall still made this place feel extremely strange. Su Yun stared at the cauldron for a moment, then walked over. This power had to be grasped in his hands. Have you really decided to swallow this pill? At this moment, a clear voice suddenly came from behind him. Why not? This kind of pill, if you miss it, you won't have it again. If you swallow it, how much time will you have left to cultivate? How much strength can it increase? Qingyu, You must know this better than me. Su Yun said indifferently. But there's one thing you don't know. This pill was refined using living people as ingredients. Not only does it contain power, but it also contains the resentment of those who died because of it. If you swallow it like this, you'll have to bear their resentment and pain. I don't know how many people Celestial Master 4Cs killed to refine this pill, but judging from the energy contained in the pill, there are at least 1,000 people. The resentment and pain of refining 1,000 immortals. Can you bear it? She looked at Su Yun seriously, and even though she was looking at his back, she still tried to persuade him. Why can't I bear it? This is just physical and mental pain. Why do you think I can't bear it? Su Yun asked back, as though he was trying to say something. Physical and mental? Ling Qingyu was slightly startled. Could it be that other than these, is there any pain that is more difficult to accept? Yes. Su Yun thought for a moment, then said indifferently, the pain in the heart is the most painful. Chapter 10:59. Hearing Su Yun's words, Ling Qingyu, who was usually pure and innocent, revealed a puzzled look. The pain in my heart. Ling Qingyu's pink lips slightly parted as she muttered. It was obvious that she still did not understand the meaning of those words. Perhaps her understanding of human emotions was not very thorough. Qingyu, you don't have to persuade me anymore. I know that you have always been doing this for my own good. I understand the logic, but I have no choice but to do it. Su Yun said indifferently. She raised the death sword and waved it abruptly. The sword Qi released from the sharp sword was like a net, enveloping the cauldron. In the blink of an eye, the cauldron shattered into pieces, disappearing without a trace. The pill inside also fell down, but before the pill could land on the ground, it was dragged by a gust of qi, flying toward Su Yun. But seeing that Su Yun did not hesitate at all, holding the pill in his hand, he directly swallowed it. After the pill entered his stomach, he sat down cross-legged and closed his eyes to meditate. Ling Qingyu was startled, probably unable to react. However, from Su Yun's straightforward actions, she knew that he had made up his mind to use this pill. All right. Ling Qingyu took a deep breath and said softly, you still have a lot of things to do. Wandering around in the immortal world. If you don't have the strength, you won't be able to protect yourself. At this stage, I can't help you with anything. I can only give you some advice when you are confused. She raised her head and looked around with her bright eyes, then said, this hall seems to have been specially built by the 4C Sky Sovereign. Other than the qi of the materials on the outside, it is almost impossible for the qi inside to leak out. I'm afraid this is also the reason why the 4C Sky Sovereign captured so many immortals, but no one knew that they were all locked up here by the 4C Sky Sovereign. Su Yun, you could digest the pill here. This is definitely the best place. Yes. Su Yun nodded. After that, he wholeheartedly immersed himself in digesting the pill. When the evil pill entered his body, his abdomen immediately turned cold. Su Yun felt as if he had swallowed a large piece of ice into his stomach, and the temperature of his body also dropped rapidly. He secretly gritted his teeth and abided by his will, enduring this unprecedented coldness. At that moment, although his body had not frozen, an icy mist had appeared around him. A thick layer of frost had appeared on the floor, and the entire palace had instantly turned into an ice palace. Ling Qingyu quickly went back into the sword sheath to avoid being covered by the weird frost. But even after entering the sword sheath, she was still very concerned about Su Yun's situation outside. Maybe Su Yun did not know, but Ling Qingyu had been silently watching his every move in the immortal world. Sometimes she would be nervous, sometimes she would be excited, sometimes she would be afraid, sometimes she would be vexed. Perhaps Su Yun knew, perhaps Su Yun did not know, but no matter what, in this world, there was actually someone who had been silently paying attention to him and caring for him. Ling Qingyu was not good at expressing herself. When she first entered the sword sheath, she was baffled. Su Yun did not understand, but from the looks of it, she would rather stay in the sword sheath than leave. The pain of frost lasted for the time it takes for half an incense stick to burn before it slowly faded away. At that moment, Su Yun's body could not help but tremble. Although his body was in a rather weak state after using the Devil Saint's devil soul, he was still a spirit immortal existence. What kind of cold could cause him to be like this? As the coldness gradually subsided, Su Yun's trembling body also recovered, and a shocking scene appeared once again. The frost that covered the palace actually turned into steam and disappeared, and at the same time, an indescribable high temperature suddenly filled the entire palace. The temperature was as high as the fire of a cauldron, instantly rising, and Su Yun's body that had not warmed up yet seemed to have been thrown into the raging flames. This kind of sudden roasting was simply impossible to guard against. At first, it was still bone-chilling, but now, it was as if even his soul was about to melt. The sudden change from before to after was the most painful. Su Yun's entire body trembled once again, but compared to before, his entire body was sweating profusely. The imperial battle robe on his body could not resist the heat at all, because the heat came from within his body. At this moment, it was as if he had been thrown into the blazing sun. Ling Qingyu, who was inside the sword sheath, stared at the scene intently, but she did not make a sound. Ah! Suddenly, Su Yun growled. He could no longer maintain his cross-legged posture and directly laid on the ground, his body twitching uncontrollably. His skin was like a piece of red-hot iron. It was extremely red, and it was getting redder and redder. To the extreme, there were signs of it turning black. The scene was truly shocking. All the places he rolled over melted. From this, it could be seen how hot his body was right now. This state lasted for half an incense stick of time, but to Su Yun, it was as if 100 years had passed. The pain, even if it was only for a second, was unbearable. Slowly, the temperature in the air began to drop, and Su Yun's skin, which was red to the point of turning black, also gradually receded. He seemed to be getting better, and his moans gradually became softer, and he no longer rolled around. But this was not the end. Before the high temperature had even subsided, an electric current instantly spread through his entire body, followed by tens of thousands of feet of lightning that shot out in all directions with him as the center. The lightning pierced through the roof of the palace, broke through the door, and shot out in all directions. It was as if a blue and white sun had risen from the octave door. When Qin Qianlong and the others who had left the palace saw this strange scene, they were all shocked and rushed towards the palace. What a powerful lightning aura, what's going on? Xiang Yang rushed to the hall, but he did not dare to go any further. The aura was far above his. Although he was in charge of the Immortal Seeking sect, the Immortal Seeking sect had developed from the foundation of a half-immortal sect. Its foundation was not as good as that of the other immortal sects, and he himself was not strong. Could it be that someone is undergoing tribulation? At this time, Wei Ming, who had rushed over, said, "Transcending tribulation? What's that?" It was obviously the first time Xiang Yang had heard of this term, and he asked in shock. "I don't know much about it either. I just heard that it is a test that immortals must pass to enter the divine realm, and that the tribulation is a test that all living beings in the world give to the spirit cultivator. When the spirit cultivator cultivates to the same age as the sun and moon, and to the same extent as the heaven and earth, they already possess the power to rule over everything. And since they want to rule over everything, they have to accept all the tests, which is why it will cause a strange phenomenon in the world, causing the 9 heavens' divine lightning to bestow upon them a tribulation. And if they can pass it, they will become the ruler of all living beings." Wei Ming said. The other 3 were all stunned. "I heard that this is just an illusory matter. It doesn't seem to have happened in the immortal world, right? It didn't happen? It's just that you didn't hear it." Wei Ming shook his head. Everyone looked at each other in dismay, and could see the shock in each other's eyes. With Su Yun's strength, they definitely believed that he had already reached such a stage, but why would he suddenly undergo tribulation? What tribulation? Don't make wild guesses. This is just a phenomenon caused by your lord swallowing that pill. All of you stay at the door and watch. Don't let anyone in, understand? At this moment, a female voice suddenly floated out from the palace. When the 4 of them heard this, they were surprised. "Miss, who are you?" Qin Qianlong asked. However, there was no longer any sound from inside. They remembered that before they left, there was clearly only Su Yun in the palace. How could there be a woman? However, in the current situation, the people in charge of the immortal sects did not dare to act rashly. After a short discussion, the four of them each summoned a few dozen elites from their sects and guarded outside the hall. Whether it was for public or private reasons, they could not let anything happen to Su Yun. If there was anything strange inside, these people would immediately rush in. However, the lightning inside lasted for nearly half an incense stick of time before it suddenly dimmed down. When the lightning was about to dissipate, another huge wave of poison mist leaked out from within. Be careful! Qin Qianlong was the strongest, and was the first to sense the terror of the poison mist. He immediately shouted at the top of his lungs. When the surrounding people heard the news, they hurriedly retreated. The poison mist continued to spread in all directions. Quick! Use a barrier to seal this poison gas. This poison gas is very thick. I can't see through it at all. If it is allowed to spread, the entire Eight Harmonies sect will definitely be destroyed. Qin Qianlong shouted. This poison mist was actually so powerful. Everyone's hearts jumped, and they hastily used spirit boundaries to isolate themselves. In a short while, thick spirit boundaries rose around the entire palace. However, when the poisonous fog collided with the spirit boundaries, it corroded the spirit boundaries to an unbearable extent. It was especially terrifying. After a short while, the spirit boundaries directly shattered. Seeing that, Qin Qianlong anxiously shouted again. Continue to use the barrier, break one layer after another. Quickly inform the people nearby. Quickly evacuate, quickly. Yes. The disciples outside were flustered. The poison mist continued to last for half an incense stick of time, and then it dissipated. As soon as the poisonous fog dissipated, a gust of wind rose into the sky, connecting to the horizon like a pillar that supported the heavens. The sinister palace had long since been shattered, and, as this gust of wind rose, countless buildings in the surroundings were also shattered. Such a terrifying scene was simply daunting. However, when the hurricane dissipated, everything completely returned to silence. There was no lightning, no poison mist, and no hurricane, except for the mess at the scene. Everything was as before. When Qin Qianlong and the others saw this scene, they were all dumbfounded. Which of the buildings of the Eight Harmonies sect was not the work of immortals? However, at this moment, they were completely shattered like paper, and the barriers attached to the buildings were even more useless. What on earth happened? This was the question in everyone's mind. And at this moment, on the other side of the ruins of the main hall, a person slowly walked down, stepping on the broken roof tiles. With every step he took, there was a strange creaking sound, especially ear-piercing in this quiet moment. Chapter 1060. The man swayed and staggered as if he would fall at any moment. If it weren't for the fact that his cloak was illusory, it would have been in tatters by now. His face was very pale, and his eyes were half open. A large sword case swayed with each step he took, making creaking sounds. Seeing that, Qin Qianlong and the rest who were in the distance immediately rushed forward and rushed toward Su Yun. Master! Master! Are you all right, Master? Master, how are you? Everyone rushed over and surrounded Su Yun, asking with concern. However, Su Yun did not say a word and fainted. Seeing this scene, everyone was shocked. Xiangyang was almost the first to speak. He directly shouted, "Quick, take His Excellency away. Hall Master Qin, we need to hurry up and heal His Excellency. Quick!" Xiangyang's face was filled with anxiety. Hearing that, the other three immediately nodded. You guys, get the elders of the Eight Harmonies sect to quickly arrange a cultivation room. Prepare the best pills and materials. We need to use them immediately, understand? Wei Ming shouted to the disciples beside him. Yes, elder. The disciples immediately cupped their fists and turned to leave. Very quickly, the training grounds were arranged, and the four people in charge hurriedly carried Su Yun into the training grounds. The two elders of the School of Eight Harmonies had already set up a healing magic formation inside, and all the immortal pills for recovery had been prepared. Meanwhile, the disciples of the School of Eight Harmonies were still sending bottles of pills into the cave. Although the elders of the Eight Harmonies sect did not know what was going on, they did not dare to offend the masters of the immortal sects, so they could only do as they were told. Very quickly, Su Yun was carried into the training grounds. Wei Ming was a member of the Great Ling Long Palace. And not only were the people of the Great Ling Long Palace proficient in the Great Ling Long technique, they were also proficient in the cultivation of the soul. After Wei Ming entered the training grounds, he ran to check the array formation, and after confirming that there was no mistake, he placed Su Yun in the center of the array formation. With Sir's cultivation, he shouldn't have lost consciousness so easily. Therefore, Sir must have some special reason. If this is caused by Sir's own divine art, we don't need to intervene. We could just wait by the side. If it really is caused by the outside world, then we can only fight with all our strength. Wei Ming said seriously to Qin Qianlong, Xing Bai, and Xiang Yang. Yes. The three of them nodded in unison. Very quickly, Su Yun was placed in the middle of the array. The four of them took a deep breath and then activated the immortal qi in their bodies, preparing to inspect Su Yun. But just as the four of them activated their immortal qi, all of them suddenly froze in unison. All of them opened their eyes wide, breathing heavily as they looked at the unconscious Su Yun lying on the ground. Everyone shuddered at this moment and looked at the others in unison. At this moment, no one said anything. But even if they didn't say anything, everyone knew what the others were thinking. For some reason, Su Yun had fainted when the four of them first followed Su Yun. None of them were willing. All of them were coerced, controlled by the heart-controlling pill, and their lives were in Su Yun's hands. It could be said that if Su Yun wanted them to die, it would only take a single thought. For this, they had no choice but to be loyal to Su Yun and work for him. But now it was different. Su Yun was already unconscious and did not have any consciousness. Although no one knew why he was like this, to everyone, this was an opportunity. A perfect opportunity that would never appear again if they missed it. The current Su Yun was at the mercy of others. Now, as long as everyone was willing, they could immediately control Su Yun and then force him to hand over the antidote to the heart-controlling pill. This way, everyone could obtain their freedom and no longer be threatened by Su Yun. No matter who it was, they all yearned for freedom. No matter who it was, they all yearned to be unrestrained, and immortals were the same. Everyone was silent. The hall was terrifyingly quiet. The four of them could almost hear each other's breathing and heartbeats. The immortal qi that everyone was urging also stopped at the same time. What should they do? Should they control Su Yun and obtain the antidote to the heart-controlling pill? Or should they continue to treat Su Yun? Everyone was caught in a struggle. They did not know why there was such a struggle in their minds. Logically speaking, when they encountered such an opportunity, they should not hesitate to directly control Su Yun to obtain the heart-controlling pill. But why was it now? Why was it like this? Could it be that this person had some unique charm? In terms of charm, he did not have much, but in terms of strength, it was indeed admirable. To be able to rely on such a powerful existence, it was much stronger than before. Continue to heal the Lord. After an unknown period of time, a deep voice finally broke the dead silence of the cultivation ground. Everyone looked towards the source of the voice and realized that the one who spoke was Xiang Yang. His breathing was rapid, but his fists were clenched tightly, as if he was thinking about something. His eyes were filled with coldness. The three of them knew what he meant. In the past, he was just the vice-sect master of the half-immortal sect, an existence with a low cultivation and a low status. If he wanted to rise to the top, it was not enough to rely on hard work. He still needed the promotion of the supreme expert, and the current Su Yun was his chance, the one who could make him stand out. So he did not want to betray. Xing Bai bit his lower lip and finally sighed and said in a low voice, "Let's save the Lord first. We can talk about other things later." Xing Bai also gave up. When the other two saw this, regardless of whether they were willing or not, they had no other choice. They did not say anything and only nodded their heads, activating their immortal qi once again, preparing to treat Su Yun's injuries. The four of them approached Su Yun, activated the formation, and placed their palms on Su Yun's chest and back, preparing to cast the technique. But just then, the unconscious Su Yun suddenly opened his eyes, and everyone could feel the immortal chi that was once again overflowing from Su Yun's body. "My lord!" The four of them were shocked. Su Yun smiled and said indifferently, "Everyone, there's no need to urge me. I'm fine." Hearing this, everyone's faces were no longer filled with surprise, but with deep doubt. Xiangyang opened his eyes wide. He looked at Su Yun from head to toe and asked in shock, "Master, what exactly is going on? Master, you were extremely weak before. How come you're fine now?" Everyone asked anxiously, but Su Yun smiled calmly and stood up. "You don't have to be surprised. I was just pretending." "Pretending?" "Yes, it was an act. The purpose was to test if you were truly sincere in following me," Su Yun said. When everyone heard this, they were all stunned, but no one made a sound. "I'm very happy, everyone. You didn't control me at this critical juncture and threaten me for the heart-controlling pill. If all of this is true, you definitely have the means to control me and can definitely obtain the heart-controlling pill you want. However, you hesitated, and in the end, you chose to continue healing me and did not harm me." He spoke very seriously, his gaze sweeping across the four people in charge, but he no longer treated them with the same gaze as before. At this moment, Su Yun's eyes were even more sincere. "Master," Xiangyang could not help but say, his voice was filled with excitement. But at this moment, Su Yun took out a small porcelain bottle from somewhere and extended it towards the four of them. "Since everyone trusts me so much and treats me like this, then if I, Su Yun, still treat you like this, then it would really be inexcusable. Everyone, this is the antidote to the heart-controlling pill. Take it." "What?" The four of them were all stunned. They couldn't believe what Su Yun had said. At this moment, it was as if these people had been struck by a bolt from the blue. The antidote to the heart-controlling pill was something they yearned for even in their dreams. However, when they saw the bottle that Su Yun extended over, they had no choice but to believe it. "Master, you really plan to give us the antidote to the heart-controlling pill? Aren't you afraid that we'll betray you?" Qin Qianlong still couldn't believe it and asked with a trembling voice. Unexpectedly, Su Yun laughed out loud. "If you betrayed me, why didn't you make a move just now? Since you were sincerely following me, why don't I show some sincerity? You can take it, but there is one thing I have to tell you. If you take this antidote to remove the heart-controlling pill, you may fall into a deep sleep for a period of time. The heart-controlling pill is not a good thing. If you let it work in your body for a long time, it will definitely affect your talent. So, you better take it quickly." Hearing Su Yun's words, the four of them did not dare to hesitate. They immediately opened the porcelain bottle and poured out the pill inside. They did not think that Su Yun would tamper with the pill. If that was the case, he could use other excuses to make the four of them take it. The four of them were suppressed by the heart-controlling pill, so they would definitely not disobey Su Yun's orders. Immediately, the four of them swallowed the pill without hesitation. Then, the four of them sat cross-legged in front of Su Yun. Su Yun stood quietly and looked at the four of them until they all fell into a deep sleep. In the training ground, it was quiet once again. "What are you going to do? Are you really going to give them the antidote and give them back their freedom? If they are not under your control, then the few forces that you have worked so hard to get will most likely disappear." Seeing Su Yun's actions, Ling Qinyu flew out from the sword sheath, glanced at the four of them, and said, "The antidote is real. You really want to do this?" "Why not?" Su Yun said indifferently. "Since they did not kill me at that time, they must have sincerely wanted to follow me. If that is the case, and still use poison to force them, it will only make them have fear and hidden resentment towards me. When this emotion explodes in the future, it will be extremely terrifying. If it can be eliminated at this time, it will be good for me and them. Since I have chosen them to be my subordinates, I have to let them work for me wholeheartedly. But if they leave your control, will they still work for you wholeheartedly? Will they still treat you honestly and not betray you? Do you think that is possible? Why is it not possible?" Su Yun stared at the four people and said indifferently, "Now, they're on the same boat as me. If they want to reveal anything about me, they will not be able to escape responsibility. Furthermore, the human heart is not something that can be controlled by a single pill Moreover, I have my reasons for making this decision. Reasons? Ling Qingyu was startled. What reasons? Suyin walked toward Xing Bai, who was the closest. He stood in front of Xing Bai and looked into his eyes. Suddenly, his eyes lit up and a ray of light shone on Xing Bai's body. This is the great, exquisite technique? Ling Qingyu was shocked. Suyin actually knew the great, exquisite technique. Chapter 1061. No wonder Suyin dared to make such a decision. Since he knew the great, exquisite technique, then he could completely grasp the thoughts of his subordinates, who wanted to betray him and who sincerely wanted to follow him. It was clear. The current Suyin no longer needed to hide anything. The people who wanted to betray him could not be suppressed by the controlling heart pill, because Suyin and the 4 people in charge were on the same boat, and if they did not want to betray him, then using the controlling heart pill would be unnecessary. After subduing the great, exquisite palace, how can I not learn a divine technique like the great, exquisite technique? Suyin said indifferently. That's true. Ling Qingyu nodded her head and did not speak anymore. She knew that Suyin already had his own thoughts and plans, so she did not need to worry anymore. He used the great, exquisite technique to roughly scan the 4 people who had already fainted, then retracted his gaze and took a deep breath. In the end, I was still thinking too much. As the saying goes, don't use a suspicious person. Since I sincerely want to nurture a trusted aide, I shouldn't be like this. What's wrong? Do these people really want to follow you? Ling Qingyu asked. Yes. Suyin nodded his head. Although their thoughts are different, their goals are still very different. They all want to follow me and stand out. After all, the power that I have displayed in this period of time has exceeded their imaginations, and everyone hopes that their platform can be higher. People's thoughts will change. They might think that way today, but they might not be able to think that way tomorrow. I understand, but if the people who follow me are people who are controlled by me using the controlling heart pill, do you think that's appropriate? I have to be on guard against them at all times, as if I have a bunch of bombs tied around me. It can intimidate others, but it can also threaten myself. I have to remove a portion of the bombs so that I can be fearless. Furthermore, using too many controlling heart pills is also a burden on me. My cultivation is actually not higher than theirs. If I were to control the clan elders of the 8 Harmonies sect, I am afraid I would not be able to do so. Suyin said. The most important thing was that Suyin no longer had the strength to control so many immortals who were stronger than him. Hearing that, Ling Qingyu turned her head and stared at them for a moment, then nodded her head and became silent. After an unknown period of time, the 4 of them woke up from their slumber. Not long after they opened their eyes, they hurriedly closed them again. They looked around and discovered that the mysterious energy that covered their brains and hearts had disappeared without a trace. They were immediately overjoyed. After waiting for so many days, everyone had finally waited for this day. The moment they were controlled by Suyin, everyone's hearts were shrouded in a layer of haze. Although Suyin had given them countless benefits, the knot in their hearts could not be removed. But now, Suyin was willing to take the initiative to heal the wounds in their hearts. How could they not be moved? My lord! Xiangyang stood up, then immediately knelt down and kowtowed to Suyin. Xiangyang is willing to follow you for the rest of my life, with no regrets. His voice was trembling with excitement. In fact, amongst the 4 of them, Xiangyang was the most loyal to Suyin. Perhaps he knew that he was the weakest, so he used his loyalty to attract Suyin's attention. Seeing that, Suyin immediately helped him up. I, Suyin, hereby swear that if I become successful, I will definitely give you riches and glory. When the other 3 saw this, without hesitation, they also knelt down like Xiangyang. We are all willing to follow you, my lord. We will do our best and die without any regrets. The cheers rippled. Suyin anxiously helped the other 3 up. Seeing this scene, he knew that he had finally gained a foothold in the immortal world. Things would be much easier in the future. Up in the vast sky, a few figures were moving forward at high speed. In the direction they were heading in was the famous Jingyu Emperor Palace. This huge palace landed on a vast expanse of clouds. On the right side of the cloud floated a huge spirit stone mine. The spirit stone mine was gently moving like a huge stone cloud, and around the stone cloud were a large number of people from the Jingyu Emperor Palace. As a famous sect in the immortal world, the location of the sect was naturally in a blessed land. The main entrance of the Jingyu Emperor Palace was especially imposing, with golden pillars and jade plates, and berserk lion guarding it. From afar, it gave off a lofty and imposing aura, and the disciples at the main entrance were also in high spirits, with their heads held high and their cultivations not bad. At this moment, the main entrance of the Jingyu Emperor Palace was completely open, and the number of immortals coming and going was endless. The Jingyu Emperor Palace was a very open sect, and many of the facilities inside were provided for rogue cultivators to use. So the Jingyu Emperor Palace was very popular, and the size of the sect was also very large. When these few figures rushed over from afar and approached the Jingyu Emperor Palace, a few disciples who had just come out immediately recognized them. It's Fifth Senior Brother and the others. Fifth Senior Brother is back. Fifth Senior Brother is back. The disciples rushed towards the immortals excitedly. However, the immortals completely ignored the disciples and rushed straight through the main entrance of the Jingyu Emperor Palace. This caused those disciples to reveal astonished expressions. Why does Senior seem as if he doesn't recognize us at all? However, these people rushed all the way, and in the blink of an eye, they could not be seen. The Elder's forbidden area. Disciples below the elite level are forbidden to enter. Finally, these people arrived at the Elder's pavilion, and the disciples guarding the Elder's pavilion stopped them. Tell the Elder that I have something to report, and ask him to take me to see the sect master immediately. If there's any delay, you can't afford to bear the consequences. One of them stood up and said with a serious expression. When the disciples who were guarding heard this, they looked at each other in dismay. However, they didn't look like they were joking. After thinking for a while, they said, "Wait here." Then, they turned around and ran inside. A moment later, the disciple ran over and shouted to the people, "Come with me. I'll take you to see Elder Li Ji." All right. The people nodded and followed the disciple inside. The Elder's pavilion was the place where the elders cultivated. Most of the elders in the startling Feather Imperial Palace cultivated here. Soon, the disciples entered Li Ji's cultivation area under the guidance of the disciples. "Greetings, Elder." The people cupped their fists and greeted. Li Ji, who was sitting cross-legged in the cultivation formation, glanced at them, then said indifferently, "Are you the ones who said that you have something important to see the sect master?" "Yes, Elder. We were ordered by the sect to go to the 8 Unity Gate to search for information, and we happened to receive important news regarding the 4 Seas Heavenly Sovereign. Please take us to see the Elder as soon as possible." A disciple said, "Important news regarding the 4 Seas Heavenly Sovereign?" Li Ji opened his eyes completely and sucked in a breath. "What important news is it? Tell me about it." "This news must be reported to the sect master personally. Apart from the sect master, no one else can know about it." The disciple said indifferently, "How dare you?" Li Ji's eyes widened and his voice rose an octave. "Is this the attitude you should have when speaking to an elder? How dare you? Don't you want to live? Hurry up and tell me. Otherwise, I'll teach you a lesson." "In that case, please grant us death, Elder. Our mission this time was personally ordered by the sect master. If we die, I wonder how the sect master will pursue the Elder's responsibility." The disciple said indifferently without the slightest fear. Li Ji was so angry that he almost jumped up when he heard that. "Bastard, I'll kill you with one slap." He roared in rage and raised his hand, but just as he raised it, he stopped. These disciples were all very strange. Facing the Elder, they did not show any fear, as if they did not care about him at all. Could it be that these fellows had the sect master backing them? Thinking of this, Li Ji's eyes turned. He was a slick person, otherwise he would not have thrown himself into the Jingyu Imperial Palace and become an elder after his sect was destroyed. Since the attitude of these disciples was so determined, and this matter was related to the sect leader, he did not want to make things difficult for himself. He snorted and said coldly, "Seeing that you really have something important to report to the sect leader, I will not make things difficult for you this time. Follow me. I will bring you to see the sect leader. But you must remember, if what you say to the elder is only some useless things, not only will the sect leader not let you off, even I will not let you off easily." With that, Li Ji stood up and walked towards the door. The disciples immediately followed. Along the way, Li Ji kept guessing what news these disciples had found out, to the point that he was so distracted that he did not even know when he had arrived at the main palace of the Feather Emperor Palace. When he arrived at the main door, Li Ji immediately put on a smiling face and shouted loudly, "Sect leader, Li Ji requests an audience." A moment later, a voice floated out from inside the door. "Elder Li Ji, what's the matter?" The voice sounded a little lazy, and it was Lin Yujing's voice. "Oh, sect leader, a few disciples said they have urgent matters to report to you, but they can't see you, so I brought them here." Li Ji cupped his fists and said. However, at this moment, the disciples waiting outside suddenly all raised their heads and walked toward the door. Before Li Ji could react, these disciples had already rushed inside. "Who are you?" Lin Yujing's deep voice came out. Li Ji was stunned, and he hurriedly went inside, only to see those disciples standing in the middle of the hall, in front of Lin Yujing. They did not attack Lin Yujing, nor did they do anything else. They just stood there, and the disciple in the lead suddenly took out a black and red ball from his interspatial bag and threw it on the ground. Clang, clang, clang. The ball hit the ground and made a crisp sound. Lin Yujing and Li Ji looked at it and were shocked. This ball was the head of the 4C's heavenly venerate. At this moment, there was an urgent shout from outside. "Sect leader, outside? There are many people outside, and they're all from the 8th door." "What?" Chapter 1062. Lin Yujing remembered these disciples. They were the spies that were arranged to go to the 8 Harmonies sect. Ever since the Celestial Sect Alliance experienced the pain of Peerless Sect, Jingyu Emperor Palace began to place spies in the members of the Celestial Sect Alliance. These disciples that were sent out were not well known in the sect, but they were very talented. They were specially trained by Lin Yujing many years ago. Their purpose was to be spies. How could he not recognize these disciples? However, the actions of these disciples were shocking. What was this? This was clearly the head of 4C's Heavenly Lord. These disciples could kill 4C's Heavenly Lord? Lin Yujing had seen it clearly. He definitely did not believe that these guys had the ability to do so. Moreover, just as they were about to toss their heads into the Great Hall, the people from the 8 Harmonies school arrived. Could this be a coincidence? Probably not. There was only one explanation. These guys did it on purpose. But who was it that wanted to do this? These disciples definitely would not do such a thing. Who ordered them? Was it the people from the 8 Unity Gate? How is that possible? The head on the ground belonged to the sect leader of the 8 Unity Gate. Lin Yujing's eyes narrowed as he looked at those people. Suddenly, he smelled something strange and immediately charged at those disciples. He formed a palm with his right hand and quickly struck out a circle of light. Li Ji, who was at the side, had yet to realize what was going on when he saw those disciples being devoured by the halo. When the halo disappeared, they all fell to the ground, unconscious. Li Ji jumped in shock, his voice trembling. "Sect leader, this, what is going on?" They were cast with a mental illusion. Lin Yujing said in a low voice. "Mental illusion?" "That's right. Furthermore, it's a very brilliant mind illusion. It's so easy that it's impossible to detect. This illusion controlled them to bring the 4C's Celestial Venerate's head back to the startling Feather Emperor Hall and throw it in my hall." "Ah, there's actually such a thing. It seems that the arrival of the people from the 8 Unity Gate was not a coincidence. This time, someone is planning to attack our startling Feather Emperor Palace. Why are you afraid of him?" Li Ji hurriedly said. "My startling Feather Imperial Palace has been unparalleled for 10,000 years. A mere 8 door doesn't need to be taken seriously at all. But what if all the members of the Alliance deal with our Feather Emperor Palace?" Lin Yujing turned her head and stared at him. Li Ji stared blankly at Lin Yujing and realized that the sect leader's face was dark. This The 8 Unity Gate is a member of our alliance. Now that their sect leader has died in my hands, what do you think the others will think? They will only think that after the Alliance immortal sects experienced the pain of the peerless sect, their strength was greatly reduced, and the startling Feather Emperor Palace took the opportunity to attack these immortal sects and secretly swallow them up. If that's the case, our startling Feather Emperor Palace will become the target of public criticism. Don't you understand the serious consequences? At this point, Lin Yujing's face was almost incomparably ferocious. When Li Ji heard this, his heart was already palpitating with fear. How could he have imagined that the situation would be so serious? Then, sect leader, what should we do now? Lin Yujing's eyes flickered as she lowered her head and said in a deep voice, "The death of the Four Seas Heavenly Sovereign means that the other party's strength is far beyond our imagination. Now that the people from the 8 Unity Gate have arrived, it means that the other party knows of our alliance, and their goal is to destroy our alliance. Could it be the people from the Peerless sect who did it? It's very possible." Lin Yujing rubbed her temples and said in a deep voice, "We'll deal with it when the time comes. No matter what happens, let's go take a look at the situation first." After saying that, Lin Yujing quickly walked out of the main hall. Outside the mountain gate, there were countless immortals gathered. These immortals were packed to the brim, forming a human wall that completely blocked the outside of the startling Feather Emperor Palace. Even the Spirit Stone mine in the distance was surrounded by a large number of immortals. These people were the people from the 8 Unity Gate. At this moment, there were no immortals coming in or out of the main gate of the startling Feather Emperor Palace. The gate was directly closed, and the barrier of the startling Feather Emperor Palace was immediately activated. The elders of the sect led their disciples and rushed over. In the blink of an eye, the main gate of the startling Feather Emperor Palace was also filled with countless disciples. The two sides were in a stalemate, and the scene was extremely tense. The elders of the startling Feather Emperor Palace tried to negotiate with the people from the 8 Unity Gate, but the people from the 8 Unity Gate insisted that the sect leader of the startling Feather Emperor Palace be summoned to meet them. The 8 Unity Gate completely ignored the words of the elders. "The palace leader is here." At this moment, a voice came from inside the startling Feather Emperor Palace. When this voice sounded, all the people of the startling Feather Emperor Palace at the main gate bowed, cupped their fists, and shouted, "Greetings, Palace Leader! Greetings, Palace Leader! Greetings, Palace Leader!" His voice was like a tidal wave, stacking layer upon layer. It was especially loud and clear. Lin Yujing, the typical representative of the geniuses in the immortal realm. It was said that he had only become an immortal for a short 9,000 years. After entering the immortal realm, he relied on his own talent and intelligence to obtain the legacy of a great immortal, obtain supreme immortal techniques, and even receive guidance from many wise immortals. As a result, his cultivation increased at a rate that was several times that of an ordinary person. After 1,000 years, Lin Yujing had long shed his immaturity and become a mature and experienced immortal. In this cruel world of the immortal realm, he had seized a piece of land that belonged to him and won the respect of immortals from all directions. The reason why the startling Feather Emperor Palace was so powerful had a lot to do with Lin Yujing. As the earth-shattering voices gradually subsided, a stream of light flew out from the sect. Then, a handsome man in a brownish-yellow robe suddenly appeared in front of the main gate of the startling Feather Emperor Palace. The man had a long and thin sword hanging on his waist. His hands were behind his back, and his long hair fell on the two swords. He looked very elegant and extraordinary, and one look at him made people's eyes light up. He walked in front of the crowd, and his gaze swept across the human wall not far away. He said indifferently, "People from the 8 Unity Gate, why have you all come here? So many people have come. Are you going to attack my startling Feather Emperor Palace?" His voice gradually turned cold, and an unchallengeable dignity floated around his body. Attack your startling Feather Emperor Palace? Do you really think we don't dare to attack?" At this moment, a person suddenly flew out from the human wall on the side of the 8 Unity Gate and coldly snorted at Lin Yujing. Lin Yujing looked over. This person was the great elder of the 8 Unity Gate, Kai Tian. So it's Elder Kai, Elder Kai. Although it's not the first time we've met, I still have to give you a piece of advice. You can eat whatever you want, but you can't say whatever you want. Seek justice? My startling Feather Emperor Palace doesn't owe your 8 Unity Gate anything. Lin Yujing said coldly. Oh, hasn't your startling Feather Emperor Palace owed our 8 Unity Gate enough? You plotted against the life of my 8 Unity Gate sect leader. Can you repay what you owe? 4 Seas, Celestial Sovereign? Lin Yujing frowned and secretly cursed. At this stage, you still want to quibble? Your startling Feather Emperor Palace has ulterior motives. Relying on your powerful strength, you disregarded the rules and wanted to annex my 8 Unity Gate. You even sent people to assassinate my 8 Unity Gate sect leader, 4 Seas, Celestial Sovereign. Now that the Celestial Sovereign is dead, his soul no longer exists, and even his head has been taken. What else do you want to quibble? Lin Yujing, although our 8 Unity Gate is no match for your startling Feather Emperor Palace, I still have to tell you this. No one in our 8 Unity Gate is afraid of death. Today, no matter what, we must seek justice for our sect leader. Seek justice for our sect leader. Following Kai Tian's roar, the people of the 8 Unity Gate also began to shout. Although the 8 Unity Gate strength was far inferior to that of the startling Feather Emperor Palace, many disciples who did not know the truth were already riled up and shouted angrily when they heard the news of their sect leader's death. However, there were also some disciples who had seen how 4 Seas Celestial Sovereign had died, so they had only come here to put on an act. After all, the elder was here, so they did not dare to not come. Moreover, no one knew who the person who had killed 4 Seas Celestial Sovereign was. Who could say that person was not from the startling Feather Emperor Palace? Looks like you were determined to rely on my startling Feather Emperor Palace today. Lin Yujing took a deep breath and closed his eyes slightly. He knew that all of this had been arranged by the other party. Even if he wanted to explain, it would be useless because Kai Tian would not listen. He even suspected that Kai Tian had something to do with 4 Seas Celestial Sovereign's death. Woo! At this moment, the solemn sound of a bugle horn suddenly came from the horizon. Hearing the sound of the bugle horn, many people present were stunned, especially Lin Yujing, who was extremely shocked. He turned towards the sound of the bugle horn, and when he saw a large number of swift figures rushing over from the horizon, his expression instantly became extremely ugly. What was that sound? That was the warning sound used by the people of the Immortal Court. When chaos occurred somewhere in the immortal world, before the people of the Immortal Court arrived, they would use such a sound to warn the troublemakers to quickly separate. The appearance of this sound meant that the people of the Immortal Court had arrived. The people of the 8 Unity Gate had only arrived for a short while, but the people of the Immortal Court had already arrived. Could this be a coincidence? When did the people of the Immortal Court arrive so quickly and efficiently? Lin Yujing turned his head and stared at Kai Tian and snorted coldly. I didn't expect you to actually call the people of the Immortal Court over. Your plan is really meticulous. Are you using the hands of the Immortal Court to suppress my startling Feather Emperor Palace? I don't dare to suppress you. It's just a simple resolution of grievances. Now that things have come to this, I, Lin Yujing, am also unwilling to argue with you. Kai Tian, in the end, you're just a pawn being used. Although I don't know who is planning all of this behind the scenes, I, Lin Yujing, want to tell you that this matter will not end so easily. My startling Feather Emperor Palace will not fall so easily. If you don't mind, I am willing to play with you. After saying that, Lin Yujing raised his hand. Li Ji and the others who were behind him immediately understood and immediately withdrew the disciples stationed at the gate. Seeing this, Kai Tian also waved his hand, and the disciples of the 8 Unity Gate surrounding the startling Feather Emperor Palace hurriedly withdrew. The two sides dispersed. The people of the Immortal Court arrived and landed in the middle of the two sides. Chapter 1063. The arrival of the people of the Immortal Court immediately deterred the situation. Even the famous Lin Yujing didn't dare to act too presumptuously. Although he was the master of a sect and a dignified venerable of the Feather Emperor Palace, he couldn't escape the restriction of the immortal court. Although Lin Yujing didn't dare to be presumptuous, Tiana was different. Seeing him walking towards those people of the immortal court, she immediately knelt down and shouted loudly, "Lords of the immortal court, please uphold justice for our school of 8 Unity." Kai Tian's head hit the ground as soon as he finished speaking. However, the people of the immortal court didn't make a sound. Only a short-haired man, standing at the front, stared at Kai Tian and said, "What grievances do you have? Just say it." Lin Yujing frowned when he heard that. These people of the immortal court don't even know about the death of 4C's heavenly lord? Then how do they get called here? Kai Tian somehow squeezed tears out of his eyes and cried, "Lords of the immortal court, I'm Kai Tian, an elder of the 8 Unity School. Today, please help us." The palace master of the Feather Emperor Palace, Lin Yujing, is vicious and cunning. He pretended to be on good terms with our 8 Unity School, but he secretly assassinated the master of our 8 Unity School. Now that our 8 Unity School has lost its leader, we're in chaos. If the Feather Emperor Palace comes to devour us, we won't be able to resist. As he spoke, Kai Tian actually started bawling loudly. Although Kai Tian was an elder of the 8 Harmonies sect, he had always kept a low profile. Due to the fact that his strength could not be considered to be very powerful, not many people knew of him. However, no one had expected that Kai Tian would be able to cry like this. The short-haired man stared at Kai Tian for a moment, then said, "Stand up and talk." "Thank you, Lord." Kai Tian stood up. The short-haired man turned around and looked at Lin Yujing and the others behind him. Lin Yujing cupped his fists and said, "Lord Luo, it's been a long time. Yujing, although we know each other, the law of the immortal court is impartial. I won't be partial to anyone in this matter," the short-haired man said in a deep voice. When he said that, the people on Kai Tian's side were shocked. It seemed like this almighty expert of the immortal court was actually acquainted with Lin Yujing. This immortal court bigwig by the name of Luo Wuling asked Lin Yujing solemnly, "Palace Master Lin, let me ask you, was the exalt of the 4Cs of the school of 8 Harmonies killed by your startling Feather Emperor Palace?" "No." "Elder Kai Tian, why are you so sure that it was done by someone from Jingyu Emperor Palace? They sent experts to assassinate us. After the sect leader was beheaded, we chased and intercepted them all the way here. If it wasn't someone from their Jingyu Emperor Palace, then who could it be? It's also possible that someone deliberately fled here to frame Jingyu Emperor Palace. Then how do you explain this?" Kai Tian flipped his palm and actually flipped out a token. Everyone looked over and exclaimed in shock. This token was the token of Jingyu Emperor Palace. At the center of the token, there was a jade word, feather. It was exquisite and beautiful. Everyone was stunned. Lin Yujing frowned and had an ugly expression on his face. He had expected that Kai Tian would have this. Since the disciples were already under his control, it would be too easy to find such a thing. In an instant, countless gazes gathered on Lin Yujing from all directions. Everyone was waiting for his answer. Lin Yujing was silent for a moment. Then, he licked his lower lip and said indifferently, "An inanimate object, it's nothing. This is just an ordinary disciple token. If we use this to decide the crimes of nearly 1 million people of Jingyu Emperor Palace, isn't it too rash?" Sophistry. If that's the case, then Palace Master Lin, do you dare to let the lords of the immortal court enter your Jingyu Emperor Palace to search? If you are really innocent, then you won't refuse, right? It had only been a few days, but now he spoke again. Lin Yujing's expression changed slightly. Behind him, Li Ji's eyes also flashed with a trace of panic. He finally understood the purpose of those disciples bringing the head of 4C's heavenly sovereign. It wasn't for the people of the 8 Unity sect, but for the people of the immortal court. If the people of the immortal court saw the head of 4C's heavenly sovereign, Lin Yujing wouldn't be able to clear his name even if he jumped into the Yellow River. "What? Palace Master Lin, why aren't you saying anything? Are you worried that the lords of the immortal court will go in and search? You'll be able to find something incredible?" Kai Tian spoke again. At this time, he didn't look like he was crying at all. At this moment, he was completely overbearing and overbearing. Luo Wuling's heroic eyes suddenly looked at Lin Yujing, and his voice gradually deepened. Palace Master Lin, you have 10 breaths of time to consider. If you don't give us an answer in 10 breaths of time, we will take forceful measures to enter your sect to search. If anyone in your sect tries to resist, the Immortal Court will make a judgment on the spot. We hope that your sect can cooperate with us and maintain the order of the immortal world together. Luo Wuling said solemnly. He waved his hand and shouted in a low voice, "Everyone enter the Jingyu Emperor Palace to search immediately. Anyone suspicious is to be brought out immediately. In addition, no one from Jingyu Emperor Palace is allowed to enter or leave the sect without permission, and no one is allowed to wander within the sect. Otherwise, they will bear the consequences. Move!" With a loud shout, the people from Jingyu Emperor Palace behind Luo Wuling disappeared in an instant. In the blink of an eye, only one person was left. Seeing this, Lin Yujing slowly closed her eyes and took a deep breath with all her might. Luo Wuling stood in front of him with his hands behind his back, looking at him quietly. "I was wronged," Lin Yujing said after a long time. "I know. You wouldn't do such a stupid thing," Luo Wuling said. Xian'er shook her head. "But it's useless for me to believe you. Without sufficient evidence, I can't clear your name, and I can't convince the immortal world. So, if all the evidence points to you, I can only act according to the rules." Lin Yujing lowered his head, as if thinking about something. After an unknown period of time, he raised his head and said in a low voice, "Is there any way to save me?" "No. Even if there is, I won't provide it to you," Luo Wuling said coldly. "Is that so?" Lin Yujing bit his lower lip, but didn't say anything in the end. "My lord!" At this moment, an urgent voice suddenly sounded. A person rushed out from the inner part of Jingyu Emperor Palace. Everyone looked over and saw that this person was from the Immortal Court. The person from the Immortal Court moved closer to Luo Wuling's ear and whispered a few words. His voice was mixed with immortal energy, so others couldn't hear it all. Hearing this, Luo Wuling's expression turned especially ugly. He first looked at Lin Yujing, then walked straight into Jingyu Emperor Palace. Kai Tian and the others saw this and immediately followed. A group of people hurriedly barged into Jingyu Imperial Palace and headed straight for Lin Yujing's cultivation palace. Along the way, no one from Jingyu Emperor Palace dared to stop them. Even Lin Yujing couldn't do anything to the people from the Immortal Court. Not long later, these people all rushed into Lin Yujing's cultivation palace. When the door was pushed open, a rancid smell wafted in the air. There was a thick layer of dust on the ground, as if no one had been here for a long time. However, it was this pile of dust that attracted the attention of Luo Wuling and the others. In the darkness, two people from the Immortal Court walked out. They took a few steps forward and cupped their fists towards Luo Wuling. "My lord, what did you find?" Luo Wuling said solemnly. "As you can see, this dust is very suspicious." One of the people from the Immortal Court said, "Suspicious? This is just some cauldron soil that our sect master accidentally spilled when he was concocting pills. What's so suspicious about it?" Li Ji hurriedly said, "Elder, don't bully us from the Immortal Court for not knowing how to concoct pills and not knowing about cauldron soil. Cauldron soil doesn't look like this." As the man from the Immortal Court said, Xian'er squatted down, fiddling with the dust on the ground. His fingertips glowed with a faint light, and when the light touched the dust, it actually emitted a sizzling sound, and bits of grayish-white light seeped out from within. Seeing this gray light, everyone was shocked. "This is the remnant of a soul. I believe all of you know this?" The person from the Immortal Court said indifferently. In other words, this so-called cauldron soil is actually the material left behind by some immortals who were killed by immortal arts. Hearing this, Luo Wuling's gaze fell on Lin Yujing again, and he said in a stern voice, "Palace Master Lin, can you explain why there are people dying in your cultivation palace? Who are these people? Why do they die? Is it your doing?" The series of questions were like knives cutting into Lin Yujing's body. Faced with Luo Wuling's questions, if it was any other ordinary immortal, they would have long given up. However, Lin Yujing maintained a calm expression and did not rush to speak. It was as if she was thinking about something. Lord Luo, I think this matter is clear at a glance. Lin Yujing was worried that the matter would be exposed, so he killed them to silence them. The dust on the ground must be the corpses of those who persecuted our sect master. Please investigate this thoroughly, Lord Luo. At this time, Kai Tian spoke again. Right now, he was like a person who specialized in adding fuel to the fire, but no one dared to say anything. After all, he was now representing the Eight Unity sect, and was a victim. It was only natural for him to be agitated. Everyone stared at Lin Yujing, waiting for his next words. If there was no explanation, then Lin Yujing would have admitted it. Even if Lin Yujing was acquainted with Luo Wuling, it wouldn't be able to protect him. After all, Luo Wuling didn't have the final say in the Immortal Court. If that was the case, wouldn't it be a mess? The Great Hall was eerily quiet. Palace Master Lin, you only have 10 breaths of time to consider. Seeing that Lin Yujing was hesitating, Luo Wuling finally spoke, but this sentence was the final ultimatum. Chapter 1064. The Jingyu Emperor Palace was in an unprecedented crisis, but all the planners were watching from thousands of miles away. On a deserted cloud, Su Yun, Qin Qianlong, Xing Bai, Xiang Yang, and Wei Ming all stood there, urging their immortal qi to look at the Jingyu Emperor Palace in the distance. Master, Luo Wuling went in. I think the people from the Immortal Court found something. Xing Bai seemed to have seen something and anxiously said to Su Yun. Although he was looking forward, Su Yun, who had been thinking about something, retracted his mind. Did he go in? In that case, there shouldn't be any big problems with this plan. Everything is just as Sir predicted. It looks like victory is within our grasp this time, Xiang Yang said with a smile. Victory is not necessarily in our hands. Master, what if the people from the Immortal Court are empty-handed? Qin Qianlong was still worried. His voice was filled with worry. The people from the Jingyu Emperor Palace have just entered, and the people from the Immortal Court have already arrived. With such a short period of time, it is impossible for them to hide so quickly. Don't worry, it is natural for them to be discovered by the people from the Immortal Court. We don't have to think too much, we just need to watch from the side. Leave everything to Kai Tian and Luo Wuling. Su Yun looked in the direction of the Jingyu Emperor Palace and said indifferently. Qin Qianlong nodded, but his worries were not dispelled. If everything goes according to Master's plan, then what do you think will happen when the people from the Immortal Court discover those disciples? If those disciples are discovered by the people from the Immortal Court, I'm afraid they will notice something wrong with them. There is no doubt about Lin Yujing's strength. If these people see Lin Yujing, how can Lin Yujing not notice the little tricks we used on them? He will definitely remove the mental illusion technique on these people. Once it is removed, how can the people from the Immortal Court notice? Since there is no illusion technique, how can these disciples prove it? As long as they bite back at us, Jingyu Emperor Palace will be fine. On the contrary, we might expose our identities. Bite back at us. The corner of Su Yun's mouth raised into a sneer. Hidden Dragon. There's one thing you clearly do not understand. They are the people of the Jingyu Imperial Palace. Since they are their own people, how could these people not speak up for the Jingyu Imperial Palace? Do you think the people from the Immortal Court will believe what they say? This. Qin Qianlong was speechless. Seeing that, Su Yun walked over and patted Qin Qianlong's shoulder and laughed. Qianlong, what you have considered is actually completely correct. It is just that you did not bring Jingyu Emperor Palace in. And there's one thing you must understand, that no matter what kind of punishment the Immortal Court gives to Jingyu Emperor Palace, it actually has little to do with us. If that's the case, why is my lord doing all this? No one understood. Wasn't Su Yun borrowing the hands of the Immortal Court to deal with the Feather Emperor Palace? But Su Yun shook his head and smiled. Of course not. We cannot rely on the Immortal Court to deal with the Feather Emperor Palace. Furthermore, the Immortal Court will not do anything to the Feather Emperor Palace because of this matter. No matter how powerful the Immortal Court is, it is still a place that follows the rules and laws, and placing our hopes on them is simply wishful thinking. Then, what is the meaning of your actions? Not really. It's just a show for others to see. Who are you doing this for? Naturally, it's the people from the Alliance Immortal Sects led by Jingyu Emperor Palace. Su Yun said softly. The reason why Jingyu Emperor Palace is able to be the leader of the Alliance is naturally because of its own strength, and because of its strength, it has gained the trust of everyone. However, this time, after experiencing the pain of the Wushuang incident, many of the members of the Alliance Immortal Sects have suffered serious losses, and the sect is empty. At this critical juncture, it is time for everyone to protect themselves, and if any of these immortal sects have any problems or committed any crimes, they will definitely gather together and support each other. Do you know who is the person who gave them such an unprecedented sense of crisis? Su Yin asked a few of them. Wei Ming thought for a moment, then said, Jingyu Emperor Palace? That's right. Su Yin nodded his head, because in that incident, the Jingyu Imperial Palace did not participate in the operation, so they did not lose a single soldier, and their strength is still at its peak. On the other hand, the members of the immortal sects have suffered heavy losses, and almost all of the sect's elites have been annihilated. The originally strong are still strong, and the originally weak are becoming weaker and weaker. Before, when it was a bull and a wolf, they were not afraid of the wolf. Now that it was a ram and a wolf, how could they not be afraid? The death of the Four Seas Empyrean will be the breaking point of their suspicion towards Jingyu Emperor Palace. Once this matter reaches the ears of the members of the Immortal Sects Alliance, I believe that this alliance will collapse on its own. If that's the case, then that's great. Once this alliance disperses, we can take the opportunity to swallow them up and strengthen ourselves. Xiang Yang, who was at the side, immediately said happily, Right now, we can't act rashly. Let's not talk about the Immortal Court's opinion on this matter. Just the fact that we attacked the Alliance army last time has not ended, and the Immortal Court is still investigating our identities. How can the Immortal Court not suspect that the Four Seas Empyrean of the Eight Harmonies sect was killed? They are not fools. We have to wait for the people of the Immortal Court to divert their attention from the people of Jingyu Emperor Palace before we can make a move. Moreover, Jingyu Emperor Palace is being investigated by the Immortal Court. If we were to annex other immortal sects at this time, wouldn't that be helping Jingyu Emperor Palace get away? At that time, forget about the Immortal Court. Even the members of the Immortal Sect Alliance would know that another power was secretly playing tricks. Su Yin said. When Xiang Yang and the rest heard this, they immediately understood. On the other side, at the location of the sect leader of Jingyu Emperor Palace, Luo Wuling of the Immortal Court and Kai Tian of the Eight Harmonies sect were still pressing on Lin Yujing. Facing the questioning of the crowd, facing Luo Wuling's final ultimatum, Lin Yujing still maintained his calm expression, as though all of this had nothing to do with him. 5 more breaths, Luo Wuling said in a low voice. This was not giving him any face at all. Lin Yujing's expression remained unchanged, his expression indifferent. 3 breaths. Luo Wuling's voice echoed throughout the training grounds. Lin Yujing still did not make a sound. 1 breath. With that said, the people of Jingyu Emperor Palace all sucked in a deep breath, their eyes staring at Lin Yujing without blinking. If Lin Yujing really could not explain or produce any evidence to prove his innocence, then he had tacitly admitted that the deaths of these disciples were related to him. In this way, the Immortal Court would believe the words of Kai Tian even more. Forget about whether or not the Immortal Court would convict him. Just the words of the Immortal Court alone would have a huge impact on Jingyu Emperor Palace. It was impossible for Lin Yujing to not know the consequences. Luo Wuling's eyes flickered slightly. Although he did not want to say the last sentence with so many pairs of eyes watching, he had to maintain the dignity and credibility of the Immortal Court. In the end, he bit his lower lip and was about to speak. These 3 disciples, because they did not complete the task I gave them, they could not bear the guilt and committed suicide in front of me. I originally wanted to expiate their corpses, but coincidentally you all came. So I left them here and ignored them. I did not know that their corpses had been burned to ashes when I returned. I cannot prove my innocence, but I want to say that the deaths of the 4 seas heavenly sovereigns were not the doing of my Jingyu Emperor Palace. Who burned the corpses? I do not know. Lin Yujing shook his head and looked at Li Ji, who was beside him. Li Ji's face turned pale, and his body trembled. He was not a fool, and he understood what Lin Yujing meant. He immediately knelt down, kowtowed, and cried, "Sect leader, I'm guilty. These disciples' corpses, I burned them." Hearing this, Lin Yujing was instantly enraged. "Why did you do this?" This subordinate was worried that this matter would cause the lords of the immortal court to misunderstand. So, I dealt with it secretly," Li Ji said with a trembling voice. "How dare you?" Lin Yujing turned his head and shouted angrily at him. "You actually dare to do such a thing behind my back. If this matter were spread out, others would definitely say that my Jingyu imperial palace is cruel and heartless, and do not care about friendship. They would definitely think that we are not even comparable to evil demons. Li Ji, do you know your mistake for doing such a stupid thing?" "Sect Master, Li Ji knows his mistake." Li Ji hurriedly begged for mercy. But Lin Yujing's expression did not change for the better. "I will let you off for now. After I reply to the lords of the immortal court, I will settle the score with you." After saying that, Lin Yujing turned to Luo Wuling and said, "Lord Luo, this matter is my responsibility. It's my fault for not disciplining my disciples properly. However, the punishment of my disciples is Lin Yujing's matter. I believe the immortal court won't be able to interfere." Lin Yujing's move was good. First, he pushed the responsibility to Li Ji, then brought out his identity. In this way, the matter of the ash soil could only be regarded as an internal matter of Jingyu Emperor Palace. No matter how powerful the immortal court was, they could not interfere. Hearing this, Luo Wuling nodded inwardly and said, "I hope this will not happen again in the future." "Definitely." Lin Yujing cupped his fists again. Seeing this, Kai Tian could not stand it anymore and shouted, "Palace Master Lin, don't change the topic. Today we are here to seek justice for our sect master. No matter how many disciples of Jingyu Emperor Palace die, it has nothing to do with us. I only want you to repay the life of my 8 Unity sect master, Foresee's Heavenly Lord." His voice was like a great bell, waking everyone up. "If you do not mind, I invite the lords of the immortal court to search. Jingyu has already said that Jingyu Emperor Palace has nothing to do with this matter. Since we are innocent, we do not fear any evidence." Lin Yujing waved his hand and said. As soon as he finished speaking, everyone present was stunned. Previously, Lin Yujing had a hesitant expression and did not make a decision. Why was he so straightforward now? Could it be that his hesitation was just to buy time, and now he had already dealt with all the clues in the sect? How can an ordinary person do something like this in front of the immortal court? Chapter 1065. Since Lin Yujing had spoken up, how could Luo Wuling remain indifferent? He immediately waved his hand and bellowed to the people beside him, "Continue searching." Yes, the people beside him nodded and immediately dispersed. Kai Tian's expression changed slightly. Seeing that Lin Yujing was not nervous at all, and instead had a relaxed expression, he did not know what had happened. But he understood that the current Lin Yujing was no longer someone the Immortal Lyceum could control. Although the entire Jingyu Emperor Palace was controlled by the Immortal Lyceum, but who was Lin Yujing? How could he only have such methods? The people of the Immortal Lyceum would most likely not be able to find anything. But Kai Tian, or rather, Su Yun had already expected such a situation. Kai Tian took a deep breath with all his might, and his gaze returned to the pile of dust. He walked over and suddenly shouted, "Look!" This shout caused everyone present to jump in fright. Everyone turned to look at Kai Tian, including Luo Wuling. Kai Tian's eyes were focused on the pile of dust on the ground, as if he had seen something. He was still lying on the ground, fiddling with something in the dust. Lin Yujing's eyes narrowed. Luo Wuling walked over and stared at the dust for a while, but he could not see anything, so he asked indifferently, "Elder Kai Tian, what did you discover?" However, Kai Tian ignored him and continued to stare at the dust. Seeing that, Luo Wuling did not say anything. However, after a moment, Kai Tian's face was extremely ugly, almost to the point of being distorted. Anger lingered in his eyes, and the moment he stood up, he stared straight at Lin Yujing and roared at the top of his lungs. Lin Yujing, what else do you want to argue about? Among the dust, there is actually the dust of our sect's sky sovereign. What else do you want to argue about? When this voice came out, it caused everyone present to be extremely shocked, especially Luo Wuling. His voice was deep, his face solemn. Elder Kai Tian, what do you mean by that? Can you differentiate it? Could it be that you found some evidence to prove that the sect leader was killed by Lin Yujing? The evidence is right here. That day, a grayish-white stone particle was dug out from the dust. This stone particle was extremely fine, and its color was the same as the dust. Even if it fell into the dust, people wouldn't be surprised if they saw it. They would just think that some part of the corpse was too hard and couldn't be burned. Everyone watched as Kai Tian plucked the stone out of the dust, their faces filled with confusion and bewilderment. Elder Kai Tian, what is this? Without waiting for Luo Wuling to speak, Lin Yujing asked in a deep voice. This is called spiritual particle. Lin Yujing, how would you know? This is something that only people of our 8 Harmonies sect leave behind after they die. Kai Tian snorted coldly, then pointed at his own head. Our 8 Harmonies sect cultivates the unique immortal Qi, the 8 Harmonies true Qi. The 8 Harmonies true Qi has the miraculous effect of attracting the spirit of heaven and earth into our body. When the spirit of heaven and earth enters our body, it can assimilate our body, temporarily merging with heaven and earth, which is even more beneficial to cultivation. However, every time the spirit of heaven and earth enters our body, it will bring along a portion of the essence of heaven and earth. After we absorb the essence of heaven and earth, it will leave impurities in the space between our eyebrows. Every little bit, over time, it will turn into this spiritual particle. This spiritual particle is incomparably hard and extremely difficult to destroy. Even you, Lin Yujing, can't possibly destroy this spiritual particle. Since this object is here, it means that someone's corpse was destroyed in your Jingyu Emperor Palace. Lin Yujing, what else do you have to say now? If something like this spiritual particle exists after every person of the 8 Harmonies sect dies, then I believe it wouldn't be difficult to obtain one. I don't know who placed it here, but it definitely has nothing to do with me. Lin Yujing said lightly. Unexpectedly, Kai Tian's anger soared to the sky, and his eyes widened. Lin Yujing, you still want to deny it? Why do I deny it? Lin Yujing frowned. Kai Tian raised the spiritual particle in his hand high up and said angrily, that's because such a large spiritual particle can be said to be unique in the immortal world. In the entire immortal world, no one can leave behind such a large spiritual particle after death. What? Lin Yujing's expression, which had always been calm, finally couldn't help but change. Many people had heard of spiritual particles, but they had never seen it. That's right, Kai Tian said angrily. In my 8 Harmonies sect, only the sect master Sky Sovereign can have such a spiritual particle that can be seen with the naked eye. No one else can have such a large spiritual particle. Lin Yujing, my sect master, he must have been tormented by you. His head was brought here by your Jingyu Emperor Palace and presented to you. If it wasn't for the arrival of the various lords of the Immortal Court, I'm afraid you wouldn't have killed your disciple and destroyed my sect master Sky Sovereign's head, right? But no matter how much you calculated, you didn't expect that my 8 Harmonies sect's 8 Harmonies true Qi could leave a spiritual particle in the brain of our disciple. Although not many people in the immortal world know of this, it is still not little. Our 8 Harmonies sect often uses this method to determine where our disciples have met with misfortune. Now that things have come to this, Lin Yujing, you can no longer deny it. Kai Tian's voice had become sonorous and powerful at this moment, which was really strange. But his words were shocking, and to Lin Yujing, it was really piercing. Lin Yujing's expression was extremely ugly, and he stared at Kai Tian with wide eyes. He probably never thought that Kai Tian would have such a trick up his sleeve. Now, he had no words to explain. Luo Wuling looked at Kai Tian and sighed fiercely. He walked straight over and said to Lin Yujing, Yujing, do you have anything else to say? The Four Seas Heavenly Sovereign's head was sent here by someone else. When the head was sent to my palace, you came. Everything is because someone is plotting against me, Lin Yujing said in a low voice. It has already come to this. There is nothing more to say. Luo Wuling shook his head, and his voice became indifferent. Lin Yujing's pupil shrank, and he murmured, Even you don't believe me? Luo Wuling turned his head slightly, and said softly, Yujing, how do you expect me to believe you? Now all the evidence points to your Jingyu Emperor Palace, but you can't find anything to prove your innocence. How do you expect me to believe you? Lin Yujing opened his mouth, but no words came out. Luo Wuling took a deep breath and said to the immortal court expert beside him, Send this spiritual particle to the immortal court immediately. There will be a specialized expert there to appraise it. Yes. The immortal court expert nodded and walked towards Kai Tian. Kai Tian hurriedly handed over the item in his hand. After receiving the item, he immediately ran away. Seeing this, Luo Wuling took a deep breath and shouted, Seal off Jingyu Emperor Palace immediately. Before the result of the appraisal of the spiritual particle is out, no one in Jingyu Emperor Palace is allowed to leave without permission. If anyone tries to leave Jingyu Emperor Palace, kill them without mercy. Understood. The immortal court experts shouted and disappeared for where the sect master was. Not long after, circles of colorful oval-shaped air barrier enveloped the entire Jingyu Emperor Palace. Lin Yujing looked at the air barrier in the sky, and after a long silence, he turned his head and asked Luo Wuling, If that spiritual particle is really Four Seas Heavenly Sovereigns, what will the immortal court do to me? Convict him. Just based on this, is that not enough? Luo Wuling took a deep breath and said in a low voice, Yujing, I am very willing to believe you, and I believe that I have reason to believe you. However, the immortal court only cares about evidence and not feelings. If Four Seas Heavenly Sovereign spiritual particle is really found in Jingyu Emperor Palace, do you think that his death will have nothing to do with you? Lin Yujing took a deep breath and closed his eyes. I have nothing to say. If you're really wronged, I will definitely not watch you fall into deep trouble. Don't worry, Yujing, I will definitely help you. Luo Wuling said in a low voice and turned around and walked outside. Lin Yujing was still standing in the distance. Even though he was surrounded by people from Jingyu Emperor Palace, his figure still seemed especially lonely. Sect Master, what should we do now? After Luo Wuling and the others walked out of the cultivation ground, Li Ji immediately came over and asked nervously, his voice trembling. Wait. Lin Yujing closed his eyes slightly. Wait. Li Ji was stunned. Wait. Wait for what, Sect Master? Wait for the immortal court's results. Li Ji was so scared that his face was drained of blood. He was stunned for a moment and said anxiously, How can we do that? Sect Master, that spiritual pellet, but it really is... Sect Master, if we continue to delay, we might all be convicted by the immortal court. Convicted? When Lin Yujing heard this, his face suddenly became ferocious. He grabbed Li Ji's collar and roared angrily. Isn't that also your fault, you idiot? You fool! If you want to destroy the corpses, then get rid of the dust on the ground. Why do you still want to stay here? You trash! After saying that, he pushed Li Ji away. Li Ji staggered and did a somersault on the ground. When he got up again, he was already kneeling on the ground. Please forgive me, Sect Master. The people from the Immortal Court came too hastily. This subordinate's burning fire hasn't even been extinguished, and they're already barging in. Moving these things, it's really... Enough! Lin Yujing gritted his teeth, and his expression was ferocious. Because of your incompetence, the alliance that I painstakingly built has already fallen apart. Sect Master. However, even though you are at fault in this matter, it's not entirely your fault. His face darkened, and he said angrily in a low voice, It's really the fault. The person who planned all of this. No matter who he is, I will definitely drag him out. I, Lin Yujing, swear. Absolutely. I will definitely not let him go. Chapter 1066. Not long after the spirit grain was sent to the immortal court, the results came out. As expected, the people of the immortal court did not give Lin Yujing any face and directly announce the results. The spirit grain was indeed left behind by the Four Seas Empyrean after his death. In other words, the death of the Four Seas Empyrean was related to the Feather Emperor Palace. After the appraisal, the result of the appraisal was sent to Jingyu Emperor Palace along with the experts of the immortal court. As the master of Jingyu Emperor Palace, Lin Yujing and a group of elders were brought to the immortal court for trial. As for the result of the trial, it would take some time. Lin Yujing had gone to the immortal court, leaving the Jingyu Emperor Palace without a leader. However, in order to prevent anyone from attacking the Jingyu Emperor Palace at this critical juncture, Luo Wuling of the immortal court was left behind to oversee the Jingyu Emperor Palace in the name of the immortal court. Now, all the immortals were looking at Lin Yujing, waiting for the result of Lin Yujing assassinating a sect leader of a celestial sect and a sect leader of a great celestial sect at that. This matter could not be said to not cause a commotion. If the evidence was conclusive, the punishment would be imprisonment for at least 10,000 years. Of course, these were not Su Yun's considerations. From the start, he did not plan to let Lin Yujing do anything. His main goal was to divide the Immortal Sect's alliance led by Lin Yujing, so that they would no longer be able to attack Peerless Sect and harm Su Qinger. Now that Lin Yujing had entered the Immortal Court, the Immortal Sect's alliance thought that Lin Yujing was the one who assassinated the Four Seas Heavenly Lord. With Kai Tian's accusation, how could they not believe it? After this, the Immortal Sect's alliance collapsed on its own. Su Yun had done some investigations before, and discovered that behind the incident where countless people from the 10,000 realms barged into the immortal realm, there was the shadow of the Jingyu Emperor Palace. It had to be said that this was a very shocking matter. What kind of divine power was needed to make so many creatures of the myriad worlds rush into the gate of the immortal realm like crazy? Moreover, as time passed, the intruder's strength grew stronger. If Lin Yujing could really control this power, the Immortal Court wouldn't be able to do anything to him, unless there was an extremely terrifying existence behind Lin Yujing. Perhaps this existence was also coveting the body of a god. Thinking about that, Su Yun started to worry again. Although he had just returned from the startling Feather Emperor Palace, he had a lot of things to do during this period of time. Not only did he have to settle the internal affairs of the Eight Unity Sect, he also had to deal with the people from the Immortal Court. Now that the Four Seas Empyrean was dead, Su Yun had taken over the Eight Harmonies sect, and as the person in charge who was directly loyal to Su Yun, he naturally had to become the sect leader of the Eight Harmonies sect. If not, he would not be able to convince the disciples. If the Eight Harmonies sect changed its leader, the people would definitely be shaken, and with the fall of the Four Seas Empyrean, it would cause everyone's hearts to be cold. At this time, only a person of virtue and prestige could stand up to subdue the hearts of the people. During this period of time, Su Yun had been staying at the Octave School, waiting for the Round Demon to deliver the newly refined heart control pill. The people from the Octave School were not like Qin Qianlong, Xing Bai, and the others. Qin Qianlong and the others had already sincerely followed Su Yun, but they were not. They were unconvinced and could only use forceful methods. Other than that, he also had to take advantage of this period of time to absorb the effects of the evil pill. Although he had swallowed the evil pill and endured the side effects of the evil pill, Su Yun had not completely absorbed the medicinal effects. The cultivation contained within the evil pill was extremely shocking, and ever since Su Yun had consumed the pill, his body had been in a scorching state, as though there was a raging fire burning in his body, making him feel extremely uncomfortable. Now that things had calmed down, the first thing he did was to stabilize the medicinal effects in his body. After making some arrangements, Su Yun entered the room that was originally used by the Four Seas Empyrean to cultivate in. The room was filled with the fragrance of pills. In the center of the training grounds, there were two huge medicinal furnaces, but at the moment, the fires of the medicinal furnaces were extinguished. On both sides of the training grounds were a large number of shelves, and on many of the shelves were porcelain bottles. It was likely that these were pills refined by the Four Seas Empyrean but it was unknown what materials he used to refine these pills. Although the Four Seas Empyrean was dead, Kai Tian still did not dare to touch these things. He only reactivated the array formation in the training grounds and added some items that Su Yun might be able to use before retreating. After entering the training grounds, Su Yun immediately sat cross-legged in the middle of the array seal and began to cultivate. Swish! A ray of white light came out from the wide sword sheath behind him, and a figure suddenly appeared behind Su Yun. Her figure was graceful, and peerless. Even just looking at her back gave people a breathtaking feeling that she could cause the downfall of a nation. The figure stared at Su Yun, then paced back and forth in front of the cabinets. She carefully examined every porcelain bottle, opened the stopper, and sniffed the smell inside. Then, she turned around and returned to the sword sheath. A moment later, the sword sheath suddenly released circles of strange light. Immediately after, a large amount of light beams shot out from the light beams. The light beams were like sharp arrows, hitting all the small bottles on the cabinets and magically fusing into them. When every small porcelain bottle emitted a mystical halo of light, accompanied by a buzzing sound, which was especially loud. However, Su Yun, who was already in a meditative state, could not sense the movements outside at all. At this moment, he had already completely immersed himself in digesting the pill. The light from the porcelain bottle lasted for a full half an incense stick of time before finally dissipating. With a sound, the figure from the sword sheath flew out again. It was Ling Qingyu. She did not speak and did not even make a single sound. Although her feet were on the ground, she moved like a ghost. She gracefully stood in front of Su Yun, her snow-white eyes gently staring at Su Yun's face. Even though her face was extremely pale and was covered by the cloak, it could not be considered sunlight, but she still quietly stared at him without shifting her gaze. After a long while, she finally let out a light breath, extended a jade finger, and touched Su Yun's forehead like a dragonfly skimming the water. A light blue light burst forth from her fingertip, and the moment it touched Su Yun's forehead, the light immediately spread throughout his entire body and disappeared at an astonishing speed. Seeing that, Ling Qingyu immediately turned and stepped into the sword sheath, disappearing. Not long after Ling Qingyu disappeared, Su Yun, who was cultivating with his eyes closed, opened them again. He took a deep breath, raised his hand, and slightly activated some immortal power. Circles after circles of multicolored light immediately overflowed with the activation of his immortal power, and in his palm, there seemed to be a beautiful and wondrous world floating. It was extremely mystical. Every bit of his strength, every bit of qi, at this moment, seemed to contain countless cycles of reincarnation and mysteries. Compared to before, this change could be described as earth-shattering. Third stage of the spirit profound immortal realm. Su Yun bit his lower lip, his heart filled with thousands of emotions. He never thought that swallowing a pill would allow him to directly leap into the third stage of the spirit profound immortal realm. Such a huge leap in cultivation was almost impossible in the spirit profound immortal realm, especially since the increase in strength this time was so huge. It was even more unheard of. When a spirit cultivator reached the spirit profound immortal realm, it would be as difficult as ascending to the heavens if he wanted to take another step forward. It had to be said that although the Four Seas Empyrean had used an extremely cruel method to refine the pill, the power of the pill was simply unbelievable. He stood up and stretched his muscles and bones. He felt that his entire body was abnormally comfortable, and the qi meridian in his body seemed to be connected with the immortal qi, operating extremely smoothly. What was even more inconceivable was that after the pill was absorbed, there was not a single trace left behind. It was completely and perfectly digested. Have I been meditating for many days? To be able to absorb it so perfectly. Su Yun thought for a while. Looking at the power in his hands, he was even more amazed. He took a deep breath and walked out of the training grounds. The door opened. Crash! Seeing that, A disciple stationed outside immediately cupped his fists and bowed. Master. Yes. Suyin nodded and looked around. Where's Elder Kai Tian? Oh, Elder Kai Tian went to deal with the internal affairs of the sect after setting up the training grounds for you. He should be in the internal affairs pavilion right now. The disciple cupped his fists and said seriously, Set up the training grounds? Hearing that, Suyin frowned. He thought for a moment, then asked, How long have I been in closed-door cultivation? How long have you been in seclusion? The disciple revealed a puzzled look and said, Master, you've only been in there for 4 hours. 4 hours? Suyin was shocked, his eyes wide open. 4 hours could be called closed-door training? He took a few deep breaths and stared at the disciple seriously. Are you sure you're not mistaken? I really only went in for 4 hours? My lord, this disciple shouldn't be mistaken. Suyin felt that it was inconceivable. He did not think that the person from the Eight Harmonies sect was lying to him on purpose. But he had only been in closed-door cultivation for 4 hours, and he had completely digested such a terrifying and powerful pill. How is this possible? Go, call your elder over. Suyin felt that something was wrong and immediately shouted. The disciple did not dare to delay. He cupped his fists and immediately ran down. Not long later, Kai Tian ran over in a hurry. Master, do you have any instructions? Kai Tian cupped his fists. How long has it been since I entered this place? Suyin asked again, but his face was extremely serious. Kai Tian was startled. He could not understand why Suyin would ask such a question, but he still answered honestly. Master, you've only been in there for less than 4 hours. Hearing that, Suyin was silent for a long time. Suddenly, he turned and returned to the training grounds, directly sitting in front of the array seal, and began to meditate. He had to check if there was a problem somewhere. Chapter 1067. There were no abnormalities within his body. However, compared to before, his body had become even more powerful. His flesh was even thicker, and his bones were even harder than before. It was likely that even a single blood vessel within his body was harder than a meteorite. Could all of this have been bestowed upon him by the evil pill? Could the evil pill have such an effect? Furthermore, how could the evil pill that contained such a huge amount of energy be digested so quickly? Suyin naturally would not believe it. It must be the magic treasure on his body. Could it be the Imperial Battle Robe? No. If it was the Imperial Battle Robe, he would not have such a miraculous effect, even if he swallowed the pill in the past. To think that he could absorb it so quickly. Suyin was extremely confused, but no one could answer him. There must be a reason for everything. If he just ignored it like this, who knew if it would be a blessing or a curse in the future? Suddenly, Suyun's gaze landed on the small porcelain bottles on the cabinets on both sides. These porcelain bottles were filled with pills that the Four Seas Empyrean had meticulously refined. Some of them were miraculous pills that even he himself was reluctant to eat. Suyun rubbed his chin and thought for a moment, then walked to a porcelain bottle and opened the stopper to take a sniff. The smell was sweet, with a thick smell of grass. This was probably not a pill refined from a living person, and it did not seem like a poison. The immortal qi that seeped out from the surface was extremely dense. Suyin poured out the pill inside, hesitated for a moment, but in the end, he still put it into his mouth. Then, he walked to the array seal in the center of the training grounds, sat down cross-legged, and began to meditate. This time, he did not put all of his consciousness into meditation. Instead, he split a portion of it into his body to observe the changes in his body. Although the speed at which he digested the pill might slow down, he might be able to find some clues from these changes and understand what was going on with his body. However, when the pill entered his stomach, a shocking scene appeared. Just as the pill entered his body, a large amount of light blue light rippled out from Suyun's body. It was extremely magical, and his entire body was warm and comfortable. As for the pill that entered his stomach, it quickly broke down in Suyun's body at a speed visible to the naked eye. In less than 10 breaths of time, the pill had spread to every part of his body, completely fusing with it and disappearing. What? Suyun suddenly opened his eyes wide. He could not believe what he was feeling. He hurriedly closed his eyes again and tried to peek at the pill. However, he found that in such a short period of time, even the medicinal effects had been perfectly absorbed, and he could not feel the slightest trace of the pill's existence. This was a pill that increased one's life force. After consuming it, it would make one's life force exuberant and have an extremely strong healing ability. Soo-Yun could clearly feel the changes that the pill gave him. What was going on? Why did this happen? Soo-Yun's eyes swayed. His heart was extremely uneasy. Or could it be that all of this was brought about by the evil pellet? Since you can't figure it out, then don't think about it. Perhaps this is your good fortune. Just as Soo-Yun was vexed, a light flashed from the sword sheath, and Xian'er flew out. Soo-Yun looked over. It was Ling Qingyu, who was dressed in white and barefooted. Soo-Yun looked at Ling Qingyu and sighed. To be honest, I was still too rash. I do not know what the effects of the evil pellet are, but under the temptation of the power, I recklessly absorbed it. Now that my body has undergone such a change, I do not know if it is a blessing or a curse. Regardless of whether it is a blessing or a curse, you just have to face it. Don't think too much about it. Ling Qingyu walked over and said gently. Even though you say that, but Soo-Yun, since there are so many pills refined by the Four Seas Empyrean, why don't you eat them all? Although I have been in the sword sheath for a long time and am not familiar with the outside world, I still have some understanding towards pills. With that, Ling Qingyu walked toward the cabinets and picked up a porcelain bottle, looking at it with an extremely serious expression. Soo-Yun was startled. He did not understand what was going on, but then saw Ling Qingyu holding onto a small bottle and walking over. Here, this pill is not bad. After consuming it, you can relax your qi channels, strengthen your immortal eyes, and speed up the recovery of your immortal qi. Oh, before Soo-Yun could even take it, Ling Qingyu had already stuffed it into his hands. He looked at the porcelain bottle in his hand, bit his lower lip, and said, Qingyu, this is a pill refined by an immortal. You have yet to enter the spirit profound immortal realm. This, what is it? Now that you see that my cultivation is low, you feel that I am unreliable and that you can't trust me? Ling Qingyu puffed up her white cheeks and said angrily, No, that's not what I meant. It's just that Soo-Yun wanted to say something, but when the words reached his mouth, he did not know what to say. Then are you going to eat it or not? Ling Qingyu placed her hands on her waist and asked in an extremely unyielding manner. Ugh, I'll eat it. Soo-Yun sighed, but still placed the pill into his mouth. It was not that he did not trust Ling Qingyu, but he was too confused. Without any mishaps, when the pill entered his stomach, it was still digested at an astonishing speed. It was not even 50 breaths of time. If this astonishing speed were to be spread out, no one would dare to believe it. If he could maintain this speed of digesting the pill, then Soo-Yun would not need to rely on meditation to cultivate in the future. He could completely take a shortcut and directly swallow the pill. This method was even faster than swallowing immortal coins. Seeing that Soo-Yun had obediently swallowed the pill, Ling Qingyu's angry face finally relaxed. She turned around and continued to walk towards the cabinets. She walked very slowly, stopping in front of every cabinet with a porcelain bottle for a long time. She looked at every bottle of pills very carefully, but almost every bottle of pills was delivered to Soo-Yun's hands by her. Here, eat this. It strengthens your muscles and bones. And this one, it can increase your cultivation by 50 years. This one has 100 years of cultivation. Just eat it. This pill. It seems to be condensed from 100 types of plants that contain powerful spirit energy. Consuming it will definitely allow you to be reborn. Good stuff. Soo-Yun, quickly consume it. There's more. And this one, it's also good stuff. Quickly eat it. As Ling Qingyu spoke, she brought the pill over to Soo-Yun. Not long later, Soo-Yun's bosom was filled with porcelain bottles. So many pills, is it really appropriate to eat them all in such a short time? Soo-Yun's face was filled with helplessness. What's not appropriate about it? Isn't your digestion speed very fast now? Once you consume it, it will be digested immediately. The medicinal effects will not fuse together, and there will not be any reaction. What's there to worry about? Ling Qingyu said. Soo-Yun was speechless. Since Ling Qing had already said that, what else could he refute? Helplessly, he could only stuff the pills into his mouth. The pills rolled around in his mouth like beans. Some of the pills were sweet and tasty, some were bitter and unbearable, and some tasted like wax. Actually, Su Yin had always been curious. Why would Ling Qing have the interest to appraise his pills today? It wasn't like Su Yun had never had such an experience in the past. When he took down the Carefree Palace, Hidden Dragon Hall, and Great Ling Long Palace, he had occupied the treasure vaults of these immortal sections. There were quite a few pills inside, but he had never seen Ling Qing come out to appraise his pills. Could it be that I've been too free recently? That's why I'm like this? Su Yun let his imagination run wild as he continued to bite the pill. Although the taste of the pill was strange, every pill that entered his stomach made Su Yun's entire body feel warm and comfortable. He knew that what gave him this feeling was not the medicinal effects of the pill, but a factor that existed in his body. The medicinal effects had stimulated this hidden factor in his body. However, what made this factor exist in his body? Not long after, more than half of the pills in the cultivation ground were swallowed by Su Yin. Su Yin felt that his condition was getting better and better, and his entire body was changing bit by bit. His strength, senses, spirit, and so on had all received an extremely shocking increase. Why didn't the 4C Sky Sovereign use so many spirit pills himself? Su Yin asked as he put the pill into his mouth. I don't know about that. Maybe he can't bear to. Ling Qing said casually. Can't bear to? How is that possible? There must be some harsh conditions required to consume these pills, or he is under some sort of restriction. It's more likely that he can't digest the pills as quickly as he can. It's impossible for the 4C Sky Sovereign to consume a pill in less than 10 breaths of time, which is why he left so many for you. That's very possible. Su Yin stayed in the house for 2 whole days, and only after swallowing the last pill was he finally free. At this moment, he was surrounded by the exquisite porcelain bottles, which were scattered all over the ground, almost covering the entire floor. All right, it's finally over. Ling Qing clasped her hands together. Her bright eyes swept across Su Yun and asked, How is it? Do you feel good now? Yes. Su Yun nodded his head. Although I did not break through in my realm, I feel that my strength has increased significantly. My speed is at least 3 times as fast as before, and what is extremely terrifying is my vitality. I feel that even if I don't use the Imperial Battle Robe, I can still withstand a fatal blow from a 4th-stage spirit profound immortal. Su Yin stood up, stretched his muscles and bones, and said with emotion. Ling Qing nodded and said softly, You must make good use of this good fortune. With that said, he turned into a ray of light and entered the sword sheath, disappearing without a trace. Qingyu! Qingyu! Su Yun shouted anxiously, but there was no longer Ling Qing's voice in the sword sheath. Su Yun was confused. Make good use of this good fortune? What kind of fortune was this? For some reason, he felt that Ling Qing was strange today, but he did not know what was wrong. Chapter 1068. After swallowing so many pills, Su Yun's strength had also reached an unprecedented height. When he opened the door to the training grounds, Kai Tian was actually waiting at the door. The moment the door opened, he immediately turned around and cupped his fists. Master. His actions and words were extremely respectful. Have you been waiting here? Su Yin sized up Kai Tian and said. This subordinate was worried that Master still had other needs, so I waited here. If I were to delay Master's matters, that would not be good. I'm afraid that even if I were to die 100 times, I would not be able to make it up to Master. Kai Tian immediately said with a smile. Hearing that, Su Yun frowned, but did not say anything and directly walked out. Seeing that, Kai Tian immediately followed. Where are Qin Qianlong and the rest? Su Yun looked ahead and asked casually. Hall Master Qin and Hall Master Xing are all waiting in the main hall, waiting for Master to come out. Is that so? Then let's go to the main hall. Su Yin walked forward. Kai Tian might have informed the few people in charge in advance, but when Su Yin approached the main hall, Xing Bai, Qin Qianlong, Xiang Yang, and Wei Ming were all waiting at the door. Seeing Su Yun's arrival, The four of them greeted him in unison. "Greetings, master. There's no need to be so polite. Come in and talk," Su-yin said, and then walked inside. "Thank you, master." The five of them immediately followed him in. Su-yin did not have the slightest bit of breath. After entering the hall, he immediately sat at the very top. Although sometimes he did things very casually and did not act like a leader or a master, but sometimes he still had to do what he had to do, and he had to display his dignity. Otherwise, he would not be able to suppress these famous existences in the past. "Report to me the matters regarding the Feather Emperor Palace and the Immortal Court during this period of time." Su-yin sat down and said, "Yes." After learning that Lin Yujing was brought into the Immortal Court, these people wanted to take the opportunity to weaken the strength of the startling Feather Emperor Palace, especially the spiritual mountain on the right of the startling Feather Emperor Palace. That is the main source of resources for the startling Feather Emperor Palace. There have been many attacks over the past few days, but they were all stopped by Luo Wuling of the Immortal Court. The startling Feather Emperor Palace is fine for the time being, but there has been a new breakthrough on Lin Yujing's side. It is said that a few immortals have testified against Lin Yujing, saying that they saw the experts of the startling Feather Emperor Palace fighting outside the Eight Harmonies Gate. They said that the Four Seas Heavenly Lord was already severely injured at that time, and the experts of the startling Feather Emperor Palace pursued them relentlessly, wanting to kill them. Someone testified against Lin Yujing. Su-yin frowned. "Sir, weren't these witnesses arranged by you?" Xiangyang was puzzled. "I'm in closed-door cultivation. How can I arrange it? Even if I don't go into seclusion, I won't do it. If my guess is correct, the one who did this should be the enemy of the startling Feather Emperor Palace. If I can add oil to the fire at this time, it would undoubtedly be for the best." Enemy? The attack on Spirit Mountain was also done by this group of people. From the looks of it, the startling Feather Emperor Palace has offended quite a few people. Xingbai laughed. "Such a big sect, there are all kinds of people. There are some enemies that even if Lin Yujing doesn't want to go, he can't. Furthermore, you only see the enemies now, but not the friends of the startling Feather Emperor Palace who are on the way to rescue them." Su-yin said indifferently. "Friends?" Xiangyang was startled for a moment, then laughed. "Master, the one who made a move this time is the Immortal Court. Lin Yujing is being held captive by the Immortal Court. Who would dare to go to the Immortal Court to save him? Isn't that courting death? Going out in the open is definitely courting death. But what if we act in secret? Which one of you knows? No one has appeared now, but that doesn't mean that they won't appear. In short, the enemies that Lin Yujing is facing are not only our group, there are still many in the dark." Su-yin exhaled and said indifferently, "Let's put aside the startling Feather Emperor Palace for now. Lin Yujing will have to suffer. We do not need to keep an eye on him. After all, he is not a big threat to us. I am actually quite interested in those Alliance Immortal sects. Now that the Alliance is broken, I believe that their desire for the divine body has not subsided. Since we already know which sects these people are from, we should keep an eye on them. This subordinate has already arranged for spies to enter these sects and grasp their information." Qin Xianlong stood up and cupped his fists. "Very good." Su-yin nodded his head. "Let's stop for a moment. If we make a move on these sects at this time, it will definitely arouse the suspicion of the Immortal Court, and these sects will also know that the one who made a move on them is not Lin Yujing, but someone else. In this way, not only will we cause a lot of trouble, we will also help Lin Yujing solve the problem, and the gains will not make up for the losses, so we will focus on the internal affairs of the various sects, stabilize them, and at the same time, investigate the situation of these sects, and wait for the right time. Understand?" "Yes, my lord." The five of them nodded. "I'll leave his place to Kai Tian." Kai Tian, although the Four Seas Emperor is dead, this does not mean that the Eight Harmonies sect has declined because of this. I believe that you have seen the current Hidden Dragon Hall and the Carefree Palace. As long as you are willing to be loyal to me, I can guarantee you that not only will you obtain something that you have never had before, even the poison in your body will be cured very quickly." Su-yin turned his head and said to Kai Tian. Hearing that, Kai Tian was startled for a moment, then anxiously knelt on the ground and said, "Kai Tian will definitely be loyal to Master. As for the poison, In order to express Kai Tian's loyalty, please don't cure the poison in my body. Although Kai Tian said that, the fear and trepidation in his eyes was captured by Su Yun. Now that his life was completely in Su Yun's hands, how could he dare to disobey Su Yun's words? A subordinate who is unconvinced would always make you feel uneasy. Kai Tian, since I dare to say that to you, then I will definitely do it. Previously, they were the same as you, but now that I have removed the heart-controlling pill for them, they have already regained their freedom. Su Yun said slowly. With that said, Kai Tian's eyes immediately widened. He anxiously turned his head to look at the four of them, only to see the four of them nodding their heads. Kai Tian was stunned for a moment. He probably didn't think that he would have the chance to regain his freedom. For a moment, his emotions were complicated, and he didn't know what to say. Su Yun stood up, walked over and helped Kai Tian up, then said to everyone, "Let's do this for now. Kai Tian will be in charge of this place. The rest of you can return to your respective sects and wait for orders." "Yes, my lord." Everyone cupped their fists once again and prepared to leave. "Oh, right, my lord." At this time, Xiang Yang seemed to have thought of something. He walked over and bowed respectfully to Su Yun again. "Is there anything else?" Su Yun asked indifferently. "Master, after you went into closed-door cultivation, Lord Yuan Mo sent someone to send a message saying that a woman has come to the immortal-seeking sect and wants to see you." "A famous woman?" Su Yun was startled. "Who?" Xiang Yang frowned slightly and said softly, "It's the Supreme Sect's holy maiden, Su Luo." "It's her? Why is she looking for me?" "This subordinate does not know. Elder Yuan Mo does not dare to neglect her, and can only ask her to stay in the immortal-seeking sect for the time being, and wait for Master to return and deal with her. As for why she is looking for Master, she did not say." Xiang Yang spoke very carefully, because he did not know what the relationship between Su Yun and Su Luo was. He was worried that if he said something wrong, Su Yun would be unhappy. Hearing that, Su Yun thought for a moment, then said indifferently, "I understand. Let's talk about this when we get back." "Yes." Xiang Yang nodded anxiously. After explaining some things to the people in charge, Su Yun followed Xiang Yang and left the Eight Harmonies sect, heading towards the immortal-seeking sect. Why would Su Luo suddenly come to the immortal-seeking sect to look for him? Was it not clear enough back then? Or could it be that Su Shantian and the others had encountered some difficulties that they could not solve? How laughable. Even if something really happens to them, it has nothing to do with me. Su Yun took a deep breath. He had long since cut off his relationship with these people. Even if something really happened to Su Shantian and the others, Su Yun could choose to turn a blind eye. After all, he did not owe them anything, and even if he owed them, he had already paid them back when he saved Su Qing'er. The immortal world looked calm on the surface, but in reality, there were undercurrents surging, and Lin Yujing was just a precedent. Of course, when Lin Yujing was invited to the immortal court, the happiest person was none other than Ao Wushuang. When he found out that the mastermind of this incident was actually the Feather Emperor Palace, he truly felt an unprecedented pressure. Even though he had already communicated with the immortal court and a few powerful friends, to him, this was still a calamity. However, no one would have thought that Lin Yujing would actually be sent to the immortal court, and the powerful sect, the Eight Harmonies sect, had also lost its leader, and the 4C Celestial Sovereign had directly fallen. With the pressure on the Peerless sect reduced, Su Qing'er was relatively safe. Of course, Su Yun did not dare to relax. The spies around the Peerless sect were still delivering the latest news to the immortal-seeking sect on time every day. Xiang Yang was very meticulous in his work. As long as it was something related to the elites of the Peerless sect or above, he would report it to Su Yun. Since the Peerless sect was fine, Su Yun was much more relaxed. When the group of people quickly flew to the immortal-seeking sect, it was already 3 days later. Xiang Yang immediately sent someone to inform the Round Demon, and the Round Demon immediately sent someone to fly 10,000 miles to welcome them. However, Su Yun was most concerned about Su Luo, who was currently placed in the immortal-seeking sect by the Round Demon. Although he had already separated himself from them, Su Yun still had some conflict with them. After greeting the round demon, Su Yun was led by the round demon and directly walked towards the small pavilion where Su Luluo was. He still vaguely remembered what Su Luluo had said when he left. Although Su Yun did not acknowledge her as his sister, Su Luluo had acknowledged him as his brother. Could it be that after not becoming a holy maiden, her personality was so stubborn? Chapter 1069. The small pavilion was abnormally quiet. As soon as they got close, the scene in front of them gave them a feeling that their eyes lit up. This small pavilion was specially built by the round demon to receive Su Luluo. Any building built by an immortal could actually be completed in the blink of an eye, but although the building was easy to do, the seal on the surface of the building took a lot of time. The round demon did not know the relationship between Su Luluo and Su Yun, so he did not dare to treat Su Luluo unfairly, nor did he dare to treat her too well. This building was only a place to rest, and did not provide any enchantments or array CLS. The round demon was exceptionally cautious and meticulous, and it was precisely because of this that Octagon Aniseed arranged for him to be by Su Yun's side, to assist Su Yun in the immortal realm. Su Yun took a deep breath, even though he did not want to see Su Luluo, but since he had already come knocking on his door, there was no need to hide, so he walked straight in. Probably sensing Su Yun's arrival, Su Yun walked towards the small pavilion, and the people inside the small pavilion also walked out. Luluo thought that Big Brother would not see Luluo. I never thought that Big Brother would actually come so quickly. I believe that in Big Brother's heart, Luluo still has a small place. A clear and melodious voice mixed with joy sounded out, and a young lady dressed in pink walked over. It was Su Luluo. She did not have many decorations on her body, and even her head ornaments were few. One could only see that her long hair was naturally hanging down like a waterfall, and her fair skin could not be compared to even the flawless jade on the surrounding buildings. The corner of her mouth slightly raised, revealing a gentle smile, her eyes curved into crescent moons. She walked with lotus steps, and when she arrived at Su Yun, she bowed seriously, and at the same time said with her cherry lips, "Luluo greets Big Brother. I've said it before, I'm not your brother, and there's no relationship between us." Su Yun held his hands behind his back and said indifferently. Su Luluo was startled, but she quickly laughed. Her smile was very light, like a breeze blowing a lotus, elegant and fragrant. It doesn't matter if Big Brother is unwilling to admit Luluo. After all, we owe you, so how can we complain? However, Luluo will definitely always acknowledge Big Brother, and this will not change. If you have nothing else to say, then please leave. I don't really like your family. Su Yun took a light breath and said indifferently. Because of Su Shintian and Shun Shueshue's deception, he more or less had some conflict with these people. Ever since Su Luluo was healed by the big, exquisite Kai, his heart had become more exquisite, but seeing her smile again, he said gently, "Big Brother is a busy person. If there is nothing, how would Luluo dare to look for Big Brother? What can happen to you?" Su Yun turned his head and looked at her strangely. Su Luluo walked over with a few steps, his voice becoming weaker. "Big Brother is related to the people of the demon realm. Luluo knows about this. So, are you going to report me to the immortal court? How could this be?" Su Luluo shook his head. Even if Luluo is stabbed by blades and swords, and suffers the pain of 10,000 snakes, he will never betray his brother. "Oh, is that so?" Su Yun carefully sized up the young lady, and realized that he could not see through this young lady whose cultivation could not be considered high anymore. The current her was like a completely different person from the holy maiden Su Luluo. At that time, she was indifferent to everything, did not care about anything, and wholeheartedly focused on the supreme divine Tao. But the current her, not only was she intelligent and nimble, she also had an indescribable unique temperament. She was like a fairy, a gentle and elegant fairy. Looking at the young lady's jade-like face, Su Yun slightly closed his eyes and said indifferently, "Stop talking nonsense. Just tell me what you want." "Yes." Su Luluo bowed, then said, "Actually, it's about the immortal court." "Immortal court?" Su Yun frowned, but did not say a word. But then he heard Su Luo continue to speak. Ever since Big Brother found out that you and Father and Mother are not related by blood, Big Brother cut off all contact with Father and Mother and Grandfather. We have nowhere to go. Luckily, Master Hu Qing took us in, and we are now living in Master Hu Qing's sect, although this is not a long-term plan. Grandfather has the intention to leave the immortal world, return to the ultimate martial world, and start over again. Father and Mother also hope to help Grandfather and restore his former glory. And I want to stay, the immortal world is more attractive to me than the myriad heavens realm. Big Brother, although you don't admit it, but during this period of time, I have been paying attention to you. When I created the new Supreme Sect, I had once paid attention to the Immortal Seeking Sect, and I once had the thought of infiltrating the Immortal Seeking Sect and transforming this sect into my Supreme Sect. If the people of the Immortal Seeking Sect could turn towards the Supreme Divine Tao, then the Supreme Sect would definitely be reborn and would recover to an even stronger state than before. With this naive thought, Luluo brainwashed a group of immortals who joined the Supreme Sect, instilling them with ideals, and made them work for the Supreme Sect without caring about their lives. These people are Su Lilua's spies. They all have the strength of the third stage of the spirit profound immortal realm and have a very strong ability to fuse. They can infiltrate any immortal sect. Although the Supreme Sect is no longer here, these people still listen to my orders, so during the time when I was separated from my brother, I arranged for them to enter the Immortal Court. Even though they are working at the bottom of the Immortal Court, they are still able to obtain some information about any movements in the Immortal Court and can tell me immediately. What does the matter of the Immortal Court have to do with me? Su Yin said without moving his expression. Su Luluo placed both of his hands gently on his abdomen, his eyes slightly curved, and continued. Although Luo's cultivation is not high, but he still knows a thing or two about the matters of the immortal world, and regarding the immortal seeking sect, Liluo's understanding of it is not any less than Big Brother's. Although Luluo cannot find out what exactly happened to this sect, but Luluo understands that the current immortal seeking sect is already wholeheartedly loyal to you, Big Brother. A person who uses the power of the devil realm, yet can completely subdue an immortal sect. How amazing is that? Although the Immortal Seeking Sect is a half-immortal to the devil realm back then, this sect was a powerful existence that could not be contended against. The devil realm should have continued to decline, but because of Big Brother, it is now flourishing with each passing day. You've said so much, but you haven't gotten to the point. Su Yun said indifferently. If you continue to beat around the bush, I think there will be nothing left to say between us. Su Yin felt that Su Luluo was using this opportunity to talk to him for a while. Although Su Yun could satisfy this request, every time he saw her, he would think of Su Shintian and Shun Shue who had deceived him, and his mood would become terrible. Hearing that, Su Yua's expression became sluggish for a moment, his eyes drooped, and the smile that was originally on his face disappeared in the end. Big Brother, I'm sorry, actually, if not for Luluo, all of you wouldn't have experienced so much. All of this is Lilua's fault. You're not wrong. Su Shintian and Shun Shue are not wrong. No one is wrong. They're just looking at things from different angles. But from the looks of it, Big Brother hates Luluo. You're thinking too much. I don't hate it, nor do I like it. A smile once again hung on Su Lilua's face. If that's the case, then it's an extremely good thing for Luluo. I have a lot of things to do, so I don't have much time to listen to what you have to say. Luluo, although we are not siblings, you have also seen that the doors of the Immortal Seeking Sect are open to you, but I will not give you too many privileges. If you're still unable to finish speaking, then the discussion between us can only be like this. Seeing that Su Yun had given the final ultimatum, Su Luluo finally did not dare to say any more useless things. She gasped for breath, and then said, the Immortal Seeking Sect is under Big Brother's command, and right now, the person in charge of the Immortal Seeking Sect is very close to Qin Xianlong, the Hall Master of the Hidden Dragon Hall, Xing Bai, and the Hall Master of the Carefree Palace. All of these sects are already under Big Brother's control. Luluo does not know what Big Brother has done recently, but he knows that the recent matter of the Eight Harmonies sect is definitely the work of Big Brother. Big Brother, the immortal world is actually far stronger than any of the realms we have known before, and the immortal court that is in charge of justice in the immortal world is also far from being as simple as we know it. The immortal court has gathered a large number of talents from the immortal world. On the surface, there are people from the immortal court, and in the dark, there are people from the immortal court you might not know, although the current immortal seeking sect, or rather you, is no longer the same as before and has a lot of power in your hands. But, Big Brother, you have already been targeted by the immortal court. Do you know that? Hearing that, Su Yun's face immediately changed. His heart skipped a beat. Only then did he realize that it might be true. How powerful was the immortal court? Since it was able to represent the justice of the immortal realm and was the highest authority in the immortal realm, how could it be as simple as it seemed? Furthermore, it was only now that Su Yun thought of an extremely terrifying thing. That was, his understanding of the immortal court was still on the surface. He knew nothing about the inner workings of the immortal court, the higher-ups of the immortal court, the leaders of the immortal court, and so on. He did not even know where the immortal court spies were, and he did not even know if there were people from the immortal court in the few immortal sects that he controlled. Thinking about it, Su Yun broke out in cold sweat. Brother, don't panic. Although the people of the immortal court have their eyes on you, they still don't understand you. Otherwise, with your identity as the demon lord of the demon realm, how could the immortal court still be indifferent? Su Luluo said. Hearing that, although Su Yun was a little relieved, he was still very serious. But they will definitely investigate me. Forget about Xiangyang. Why are existences like Qin, Qianlong, and Xing Bai working for me? How could they not be suspicious? Sooner or later, my identity will be exposed. If Big Brother still hasn't noticed that the immortal court is already paying attention to you, your identity will naturally be exposed sooner or later. But now that you know, how can you not be on guard? Big Brother only needs to forge an identity and deceive the immortal court. How can the immortal court be so easily fooled? Su Yun shook his head. Right now, the immortal court has a lot of things to take care of, and Big Brother's matter is not their top priority. If I want to fool them, I do need some skills, but it's not impossible. Su Luluo smiled. A look of wisdom flashed past his eyes, as though he already had an idea. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.